This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. We're gathering details this morning about a teenager who died in Fruit Heights after falling about 60 feet from a power pole. This happened a little after 9 last night near 1800 East and 700 South. The Davis County Sheriff's Office tells us deputies arrived and found the teen with severe burns, likely from electrocution. He was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. We are told the 16-year-old is from Davis County. A Utah judge ruled just before midnight to reject the new congressional district map selected by the GOP-led Utah legislature. Instead, the judge selected an alternative map. Republican state lawmaker Candace Perucci, who helped lead the map drawing process, calls the decision, quote, a clear example of judicial activism. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Senate voted and passed a bill to reopen the government last night, and the bill is now on the way back to the House. ABC's Rachel Scott is at Capitol Hill this morning saying Democratic leadership is not happy with the outcome because it didn't include any health care subsidies.
This didn't catch Democratic leader Chuck Schumer by surprise. Democrats were meeting behind closed doors, day after day for hours. They were having these really intense discussions about just how long do they go for? How long exactly do they continue to put up this fight, and whether or not it's actually worth it?
Members of the House are on their way back to Washington, D.C., and they're scheduled to vote on this updated funding bill tomorrow. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 159 points to 47,519. Coming up, hazy skies, and we still got backups on I-80 in Parley's Canyon. We'll update traffic and weather together next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that, and third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Each night in Utah, nearly 1,000 people sleep on our streets. This past year, homelessness rose by 18%. More than 15,000 Utahns experienced homelessness in 2025.
Behind every number is a person, often facing trauma, addiction, and isolation. Being homeless is cold and lonely. And while winter overflow shelters are open, there still aren't enough beds.
The Rescue Mission of Salt Lake and Ogden Rescue Mission are here to help. Through their Inpatient Life Transformation Program, they address the root causes of homelessness, offering life skills, education, and faith-based support to help people rebuild their lives.
They also provide daily meals, shelter, hygiene services, clothing, and street outreach. Emergency services are often the first step toward hope.
The Rescue Mission receives no government funding. It's powered entirely by your generous tax-deductible donations.
Help someone work their way out of homelessness. Visit RescueSaltLake.org to learn more.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or back problems, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming on.
And how about working more comfortably, like Dennis?
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. I could do my job, and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow is going to be. It's going to be positive.
You deserve a better life too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And here's an update from Heather Kelly.
Yeah, we've got over 4 miles of stopped traffic eastbound I-80 coming up from the Mountain Dell Golf Course all the way to the summit of Pardaleys Canyon. It's due to a crash that has been moved over to the right shoulder, so all the lanes are open. But unfortunately, several lanes were blocked for quite some time, leading to all these delays. You're also still a bit slow northbound I-15 coming out of Utah County into the Salt Lake Valley, but traffic pretty much everywhere else is easing up very quickly this morning. Is the IRS harassing you, garnishing your wages, or threatening asset seizure? Get immediate relief. Contact Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Visit endtaxworry.com. That's endtaxworry.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, KSL weather, a high today of 63, 65 tomorrow, 69 on Thursday. That's the warmest of the next 7. And then a cold front rolls in, bringing rain on Friday. Right now it's 45 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm Holly Richardson, and I'm joined today by John Dougal, who's a former legislator, former auditor for the state, and now works in the Attorney General's office.
Well, it's good to be with you again. Last time we were together was Columbus Day.
Oh, yeah.
And
now it's another holiday. Okay.
That's right. So I guess it's a new tradition for us.
Okay.
So what were you doing last night at 11:30?
I was sleeping.
Oh, were you? You weren't like...
I was not glued
refreshed.
to Twitter. I looked at it before I went to sleep, but I have to get up early for this and to finish my newsletter, and so I went to bed.
There you go.
What were you doing?
I was looking to see the judge who was supposed to drop an opinion yesterday on the congressional maps. It was like, okay, nothing at 6,
Where is
nothing
it?
at
Where
7,
is it?
nothing at 8, nothing at 9. I gave up at 11:30. So.
And it dropped at
11:40.
11:40. So we actually have
It's like one of those things. You got your homework and you got to it's due at midnight.
I know. I used to submit at 11:59.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was early. 20 minutes early.
We have a press conference that's going on right now on the steps of the 3rd District Courthouse.
Matheson Courthouse.
Matheson Courthouse. And we're hearing...
I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Utah. And we have been in an incredible partnership with the Mormon Women for Ethical Government. Thank them. Thank you. I'm here to thank the voters of Utah. It was you who made this happen. This was perhaps the most impressive grassroots effort in the United States of America. We have done something special. Democrats, Republicans, independents, you now have a voice. We have fair districts. In the next election, you will see we will have some competitive races, but there will be a reason to vote. That is something that every voter should take to their heart. Stunningly, the legislature isn't giving up. We have simply sent a message to them that they need to represent the voters. It should be a pretty easy task. Instead, today, stunningly, they have filed a bill to impeach the judge for doing her job. This is unbelievable. She's not doing anything that she shouldn't do. This came from the Supreme Court of Utah. I will say Article 1, Section 2 gives the people the right to change their form of government, which is just exactly what we did. So thank you, voters. Pay attention. This is not going to stop. The legislature also has an initiative to repeal Proposition 4. And as Emma said, Proposition 4 is the law of the land, and we can live with that. Thank you.
Morning. My name's David Ryman. I'm an attorney with Parr Brown. I'm one of the lawyers on the legal team representing the plaintiffs in this case. As people have mentioned, it's been 7 years since Utah voters, after decades of political games drawing maps, finally said enough and got politics out of redistricting. They spoke with clarity and they spoke with purpose. They didn't want favor, they just wanted fairness. And it's been 7 long years fighting against the legislature's repeated efforts to ignore, undermine, and not follow that law. Many of you I've seen throughout much of that time when we've been prosecuting this fight. And it's been a very long fight. And the gratitude that the people behind me have expressed today is well deserved. But today, finally, is a day to celebrate that the voice of the people has finally been heard and vindicated, that Utahns are tired of partisan political games and manipulated contests and elections, and that the legislature, most crucially, must comply with the Constitution, and they can't ignore it just to try to keep themselves in power. One of the geniuses of our constitutional system of government has always been that the branches are independent, that they serve as checks on each other, that no branch, no matter how much they may want to, can act as a king. So today, in addition to the victory for the voters of Utah, we also celebrate that when the legislature violates the people's rights, when it seeks to ignore the Constitution just to maintain power, Utah's courts will stand as a protector of the people in our democracy. And that is something that all of us can celebrate regardless of our political stripes. Thank you very much.
We'd be happy to answer a few questions as well.
So what are the next steps? Do you expect the legislature to seek an emergency?
So we've been listening to a press conference from the plaintiffs in the redistricting lawsuit, and we didn't actually have a chance to tell you what the judge decided. What she did was throw out the map that the legislature had proposed.
Well, so let's step back. She threw out the original map that was there. Legislature came back in a special session, adopted a new map.
Right. She did not accept that map, and so she took one of the maps from the plaintiffs.
What is called Map 1.
Map 1. And so one of the things with Map 1 is that they used a computer program to meet all of the requirements for from Prop 4. And, of course, what you're seeing, John, and this is what we've already noted, is that the legislature, at least Republicans in the legislature, are very, very unhappy with that decision. There's been already a ton of pushback.
They believe it's extra constitutional, meaning it's outside the bounds of the Constitution, is what they believe.
Right. And so as we heard from this press conference, there's already at least one lawmaker saying that they're going to impeach the judge.
Or at least consider impeaching. Yeah.
Well, he said he was filing articles of impeachment. So, yes, I mean, the whole conversation has to be, does everybody agree with him? But somebody is filing.
Yeah.
It's Representative McPherson saying, I'm filing articles of impeachment against this judge. And then Candace Perucci, who was co-chair of the new redistricting committee, just called it judicial activism from the bench. So it's one of the issues, right, that is super interesting, but we'll continue the conversation through multiple different segments today. We'll talk with Rob Axson, the chair of the Utah Republican Party, but he's also one of the people who has initiated the initiative to overturn Prop 4. And we'll talk with Elizabeth Rasmussen, who's the executive director of Better Boundaries. So we'll have lots of fun conversation today.
The thing, I'll just note real quick, the thing that's interesting is the Map 1 that's drawn.
Yeah.
I was on a special redistricting commission back in, I think it was 2006, when Utah was considering possibly getting a 4-seat due to the missionaries.
Oh, yeah, that's
Should
right.
they be counted in Utah or elsewhere?
That's right.
And we were basically required to draw a map favoring Democrats because another state was going to draw a map favoring Republicans to keep the balance in.
That's interesting.
In Congress. And so that donut hole was essentially Map 1. And so
that's
this
interesting.
This is where it's kind of interesting where they say it's drawn for this reason, and yet it kind of looks like it was drawn for a different reason.
It does look that way. So that's a discussion that I'm sure we'll be having as we continue the show. When we come back, though, we're going to talk for a little bit just about the government shutdown and what that looks like right now.
Hey guys, it's Woodrow from Mint Medical Clinic. Are you struggling with ED? Well, you are not alone, and now there's a real solution that treats the root cause, not just the symptoms. Introducing our Trifecta approach, a breakthrough combination of acoustic wave therapy, hormone replacement, and cryotherapy, all designed to restore blood flow, boost performance, and rebalance your hormones. Whether it's ED or hormonal imbalance, if you're ready to reignite your love life, this treatment helps bring back your energy, your drive, and your confidence. And right now, when you call, you'll receive a free consultation, a blood flow ultrasound, and an intimacy gift. That's a $650 value, absolutely free. And here's the bonus. The next 20 callers will also receive a 5-night stay at a luxury resort in Hawaii just for taking the first step. But you must call now. With 2 convenient locations in Layton and Sandy, help is closer than you think. Call 801-804-8000 now. That's 801-804-8000. Mint Medical Clinic. We'll get you back to mint condition.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We still have stop-and-go traffic eastbound I-80 for a good 3 miles, trying to get up to the summit of Parley's Canyon. It's all due to a crash that's now over on the right shoulder. So now that all the lanes are open, speeds are starting to improve a bit, but it's going to take some time for everybody to clear out. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah, gopavutah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Fresh off its UK tour. Over 200 sold-out performances. The Covey invites you to step back in time to see the true story of the boy band that changed music forever. See The Osmonds, a new musical, in its exclusive North American premiere. A national theatrical event that starts right here in Provo in March 2026. Go behind the scenes and see The Osmonds as they rise to fame with hits like Yo-Yo, Crazy Horses, and Puppy Love. And see the mistake that brought it all crashing to the ground. A tale of redemption, family, and sacrifice, as told by Jay Osmond himself. The North American premiere of The Osmonds, a new musical, coming to the Covey in March 2026. Presented in cooperation with the Utah Office of Tourism. Get tickets at coveycenter.org.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Hey, this is Dan the Laptop Man from PC Laptops. Myth. You might have heard that you need to spend a fortune these days to get a powerful computer. Correction. At PC Laptops, we wanted to prove that wrong. So here's the most amazing deal that we've ever done at PC Laptops for you in over 30 years. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Take one home today. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
And expanded Inside Sources.
before we jump back into Utah's redistricting judicial decision last night, we're going to talk about government shutdown.
Or not so shut down, or maybe opening back up or something.
It's a maybe, and it's a probably even, it looks like right now. So on Sunday, the Senate finally voted 60-40 to take the very first procedural vote to reopen the government. And yesterday, they actually went through all of the votes they needed to say, yeah, we're going to reopen the government, and they sent it over to the House side. So the House can't vote until tomorrow at the earliest, because why?
They're struggling to get in town because of disruption, flight delays and cancellations. And I wonder who caused that.
Yeah, I don't know. People who can't work together enough to keep the government open.
So this is the longest, quote unquote, shutdown.
Oh, yeah.
I hate using the term shutdown because it's only a semi-pseudo shutdown.
No, it's a full shutdown, John.
Yeah.
It's a full shutdown.
Nobody got their Social Security checks. Nobody got their.
The military managed to cobble together. So they were paid, active duty were paid, not necessarily the reservists, not the civilians who work with the military, but active duty had funds cobbled together from two places. But if they went to Friday.
Redirected, that you might question.
That's right, redirected funds.
From something that the Congress appropriated for one purpose that was cobbled together for a different purpose.
You are correct.
So you'll have some questions about that.
So anyway, there's
and you have folks that have been working for a month plus without
no
pay.
pay.
They're required to work.
That is right.
Some employees are required to work with no pay. Others are basically sent home for what some would say a pseudo vacation.
Except for President Trump has already started talking about, and this is on the Hill, they've talked about this as well, and I don't think there's been a final decision, but to not pay furloughed workers. That they just don't get paid for the 6 weeks that they've been off, which is just devastating, right? I think it's devastating to say you can't work, and by the way, we're not going to pay you. So too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
So
but
why do you
a lot of Americans wonder, why does somebody get paid back pay when they weren't doing any work?
Well,
I think they all understand
to.
For the air traffic controllers and others that are required to work.
Well, they weren't allowed
to them,
right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the issues. So why do you think they finally came together?
Thanksgiving.
Why? Why Thanksgiving?
So I think Thanksgiving is one of the, if not the biggest travel holiday.
Oh, for sure.
And with all the disruptions at the airports and the delays and cancellations, I was telling folks weeks ago that if it wasn't solved by this upcoming Saturday, Congress was going to have a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Because the traveling public was not going to stand for that. And so that's one of the reasons I came together. Why do you think the Democrats, who basically agreed to reopen it took 60 votes in the Senate to do this, they got essentially nothing. They got the promise of a vote on some nebulous thing come the end of the year in terms of Obamacare subsidies.
Yeah.
Why do you think they agreed to this, even after they had a week ago an election that went in their favor?
I don't know, except to say that they can see how this is really hurting people, right? Real people. So whether it's the SNAP benefits not being paid or in Utah, we have 40,000 workers, federal workers, but nationwide, it's in the millions of federal workers. I don't know, except to say that they finally just said, look, there's enough pain, and maybe they're not up for re-election. I think maybe I saw that.
Yeah. All the ones that
they
not
died
up
on
for
their sword.
Not up for re-election this upcoming cycle starting in January. But
yeah. But at some point, they're like, we just got to get it done. And then my understanding is, of course, and I'm sure that you know this, but on the House side, even though the Democrats are pretty strongly opposed to exactly what you're saying, you caved, got nothing in return, they don't have enough votes to stop this from being passed.
No.
Unless, Marjorie Taylor Greene votes no. Well, they'd have to lose. They'd still have to lose several Republicans and all the
She's
Democrats.
She's going to want to have it open up, so they're not going to lose.
She does want it opened up, but she also wants a conversation about the health care. Anyway, that's really interesting too. But look, you mentioned the air travel. So there have been, it's been so many delays. So yesterday, 25,000 flights were delayed, nearly 3,000 canceled. Today, over 10,000 delays, 1,500 flights canceled. President Trump went on Truth Social to basically berate air traffic controllers who had not gone to work. And most of them are showing up. But remember, some of these guys are working 6 days a week also with no pay, right? And so he's saying everybody has to go back to work now. Otherwise, you're going to be docked. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not reading his Truth Social post.
Well, this
exactly.
isn't a quote. It sounds like it's a.
Well, okay, so this is a quote. All air traffic
capitalized?
controllers must go back to work now. Anyone who does not will be substantially docked. That's the direct quote. And then he says he'll pay $10,000 bonus for any air traffic controller who worked their regular.
Who did not miss a
right.
day.
Right. And a reporter asked him yesterday, "Where are you going to get the money?" And he said, "I don't know, but I'll find it." So
there you go. That's always those fun things in government. I don't know, but I'll find it somewhere.
Well,
was it really appropriated for that purpose?
Well, there's a whole nother conversation. But one of the things that's interesting too is that.
Well, and I was going to say, Chuck Schumer, Minority Leader Schumer, is on the hot seat here.
Oh, he is.
He got blasted back. I think it was in March with the last thing where he voted not to shut down the government.
Yeah.
And then he shut it down. I mean, I think it was fairly. Called the Schumer shutdown for a reason. And he's getting blasted that he was too weak and soft and couldn't hold his caucus together.
Yeah.
Especially coming out of the major wins the Democrats had last week.
Yeah. He's having people from his own party tell him to just step down and step aside. So, but on the airlines, one of the things I think that we've talked about a little bit on Inside Sources already is that this stuff does not go back to normal right away. The flights won't
you
go
can't
back
just
to
say,
normal.
hey, it's reopened and it started and we're back to normal the next day. No, there's a major ripple effect.
Yep, there's a Washington Post.
It takes about a week.
Yeah, the Washington Post article said, so one that I'm looking at today said it's not going to happen right away on airlines. They just said travel disruption will persist, will persist because exactly what you said, it takes time. There will be residual effects for days. And that's one of the things, too, that's one of the unknowns, like with the payments for SNAP. You don't just flip a switch and everything's suddenly back to normal. It takes a while.
Well, and you think about travelers. Okay, your flight was canceled.
Yeah.
Now you're still in, I don't know, I'll pick Chicago.
Right.
Waiting to get back to Salt Lake City.
Right.
So now the next day they got to try and figure, is there a spot?
And everybody else on that flight.
Because we have everybody else who's booked.
That's right.
And we're now running flights that I don't know if you've noticed, but when I go on a flight these days, there's almost no empty seats.
Yeah.
They got everything booked. And so that's why there's a major ripple effect. Trying to get everybody home.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're thinking Home Alone and she's trying to get back to her kid. And
right. You have to, in fact,
in the back of the U-Haul or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right. Through a snowstorm, right? And the East actually they had snow yesterday. Some really heavy snow in some places.
We've got artificially warm weather here and they're artificially cold back east.
So you also have weather delays on top of all these other ripple effects of flights being canceled and delayed.
Well, the sad thing from my perspective is I do not believe we have learned the lesson. I think air traffic control is too important to trust to Congress. I'm in favor of one of those pseudo-privatization.
Yeah.
And I don't think, unfortunately, we'll do that. I mean, places like Canada.
Yeah.
Backwater countries like Canada.
Oh, be quiet.
I'm joking. But they've done this and it's gone well. And yet we don't. And I think we should. We need to learn that we have too much going on at the federal level. We should privatize certain activities.
Well, I've always wondered why the government was controlling air traffic controllers. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting part of the conversation. The shutdown, the whole overall look of the shutdown. But to your point about we haven't learned our lesson, not just with air traffic controllers, the bill that they're passing only funds the government through the end of January.
January 30th. Giddy up.
We
like to go from crisis to crisis to crisis. But I look at things, whether it's food stamps and SNAP benefits, whether it's health care and so forth. So many of these things should not be driven at the federal level and be hostage of one party or the other with, shutdowns and crises and so forth. I think we can do much better if they were pushed back to the states, what some would call federalism.
So what's going to push down? Oh, the SNAP?
Well, all those federal programs that are dysfunctional at the federal level, I think we can operate them better at the state level. And
well, I don't disagree.
We prop up the national parks.
Yeah.
When the federal government shuts down.
Sure.
So it's like, why even have them run it?
Well, even the conversation with SNAP, though, I mean, we've talked with House Speaker Mike Schultz, and he's just like, look, this is like, I don't know, what is it, $30 million a month, $32 million a month for the state of Utah that the feds are paying. They're like, we don't have that money. We don't have that amount. So it's something, but I don't see that happening, John, but we'll see, I guess.
No, because Congress likes to have control and power.
Well, I would say that about
And hold on for the next crisis.
I would say that about anybody with even a little bit of power, including the HOA president, right? And the Utah legislature. So anyway.
HOA presidents, don't keep your Christmas decorations up too early. The HOA president will come along.
Good thing I don't live in an HOA. All right, so Utah GOP Chair Rob Axson has some thoughts on the judge's decision on redistricting. They might be a little strong. He's going to join us next.
Oh, giddy up. Giddy up. Let's go.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, the group Better Boundaries and other plaintiffs in the Utah redistricting lawsuit have been speaking with reporters this hour, reacting to the judge's decision to reject GOP lawmakers' congressional map and instead selecting one of the alternative maps.
Next year, Utahns will go to the polls knowing their vote matters a little more, that their voices carry weight, and that leaders they elect will have to answer to them.
Several GOP lawmakers have released statements calling the judge's decision political activism, and one of them says he's already started the steps needed to call for an impeachment of the judge. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Senate voted last night to pass a short-term spending bill to end the government shutdown. And now that bill heads to the House for a scheduled vote tomorrow.
Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries says his members will fight the bill. But given that 8 Senate Democrats voted to pass it, at least some in the House are expected to cross the aisle to send it to the president's desk. The measure would fund agencies through the end of January and require any federal workers laid off during the shutdown to be reinstated. Drawing most Democrats' ire, the bill does not extend expiring COVID-era tax credits that have made health insurance exchange plans more affordable.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 171 points. That's 0.3% to 47,539. Coming up, the weather is going to be sunny but hazy. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hard to believe, but Black Friday's here, and you know what that means. It's time for Black Friday money deals at UCCU.
There is an annual tradition now for Black Friday at UCCU where people look forward to, because unlike other Black Friday sales, Black Friday at UCCU is your chance to actually improve your finances.
Like a home equity loan with extra 0.25% off the intro rate, auto and RV loans with no payment for 90 days, low-rate credit cards with 0% interest for 6 months, and $150 cash just for signing up for direct deposit.
It's so easy, and that's just the beginning of Black Friday money deals. Keep going to uccu.com every week for new premium deals that will unlock, and they're things like cutting your auto loan rate in half to earning a higher interest rate on your savings. Enter each week for a chance to win these awesome prizes.
But you got to visit uccu.com every week, but if you come back and enter every time a new deal unlocks, you can win them all. So don't just enter once, go every week, unlock every deal, and win big this Black Friday at UCCU.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Way back in 1989, I started servicing hot tubs in Park City, and I learned the hard way in the freezing winter in the mountains that hot tubs are not built for Utah's harsh climate. I then found the Arctic Spa, the most northern manufacturer of hot tubs built specifically for the northern climates. Arctic Spas use perimeter insulation similar to your house where the outside walls are insulated. This allows us to utilize the excess heat from the motors to help heat the water and reduce your electric cost each month. Since then, we have sold 10,000 Arctic Spas here in Utah. We've learned that Arctic Spas last longer because they are built stronger. You can just feel the difference. Arctic Spas are easier to fix because we put access panels all the way around the spa, which makes it less expensive for you. Add this to the lower electric bills each month, and you end up with the least expensive hot tub to own over the long term. Arctic Spas, with stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George, or online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we still have about a mile of stop-and-go traffic eastbound I-80 trying to get up the hill to the summit of Parley's Canyon. This is all due to a crash that is in the cleanup stages. It's still over to the right shoulder, and traffic's just having a hard time getting back to normal speeds through that stretch. Now, once you get past it, then you're going to run into typical delays. Not normally this time of morning, but you do have your delays in the right lane of eastbound I-80 between Kimball Junction and the US 40 turnoff. So that's adding a lot of extra time on your drive this morning trying to get into Park City from the Salt Lake Valley. Home ownership is slipping away in Utah, and young Utahns are being priced out of their own communities. Learn more about Utah's housing shortage and what we can do to begin to fix it at demandmoresupply.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're going to stay in the mid to upper 60s for the next 3 days, but then a cold front blows in Thursday night, bringing rain on Friday and cooler temperatures for the weekend. Right now it's partly cloudy and 46 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Today it's Holly Richardson and John Dougal, although in the next segment, Greg Skordas is going to call in and join us.
Oh, there you
that
go.
will be good.
So he doesn't have the holiday off after all.
It's not after all.
So late last night, we had Judge Diana Gibson handed down a decision regarding Utah's congressional maps. Right in the nick of time.
Yes, she had to have it done by November 10th. So at 11:40 p.m. on November 10th, we got a decision.
So she tossed out the map that was chosen by the legislature, the special session they held in October, map C. She tossed that. Instead, she opted for map 1, which is one of the maps drawn by the League of Women Voters. And we've got GOP Party Chair Rob Axson on the line with us. And I think he probably has an opinion on this.
I think it's a strong opinion. Hi, Rob. How are you?
It is certainly a strong opinion, but it's always good to be with you guys. And here's what I want to make abundantly clear, though. Strong opinions and strong opposition does not mean that we have to be angry at one another. We can be adamantly frustrated and angry at the situation, but this is one that I won't shy away from. And it's no personal condemnation of Judge Gibson. She just is an epic failure as a jurist right now.
Well, that sounds a little personal, I'll just say.
Sounds like he's mad as heck.
Certainly am. And here's why I'll tell you that, Holly. You look at the situation. If we care about outcomes, if we care about things going our way, we need to believe in the process. We need to believe in the rules that are laid out on what allows us to move forward. And we have constitutional structure. We have separation of powers. We have a Utah Constitution and a U.S. Constitution. And when you have an unelected judge who decides to be the executive and the legislature all from the bench, that's blurring those lines in a way that is not beneficial to the state of Utah. So again, I wish her the best personally, but here she missed the mark.
So Rob, where did she miss it when it comes to process? You talked about the importance of process. Where did she miss it on process?
Article 6, Section 2 of the Utah Constitution lays out that the sole authority of drafting maps for our legislative districts and our congressional districts is held by the legislature. By not even adhering to a map that was passed by them under duress on her orders, she is now taking that authority away from the representatives of Utahns and giving it to unelected individuals. It's not even going to the redistricting commission that was passed by Prop 4. It's going to the plaintiffs, the League of Women Voters. What right does that group have to draft maps that are not accountable to the rest of Utahns? We as voters deserve to have a voice in this, and that is through our legislature.
So let me ask you this, Rob. Are you planning on appealing the ruling, and what is that time frame likely to look like?
Well, ultimately, the defendants in this case is the state legislature, right? And so they will engage in their process of determining when and how to appeal. The Utah Republican Party, as well as the PIC that was established, the Political Issues Committee, Utahns for Representative Government, we will certainly come in and be supportive where it makes sense strategically to add our names to that appeal process. But I believe that what happened with the courts over the last year plus has created constitutional confusion. What happened last night has created a constitutional crisis.
So Rob, the legislature in the map they drew, Map C, that they drew in October, folks said that there were 2 safe Republican seats there and 2 competitive seats, meaning a Republican or a Democrat might win one of those 2 seats depending on.
Although they skewed Republican.
They leaned Republican,
well,
but they were viewed
leaned
as
Republican, I think, is the better word. And here's why, Holly. Utah is a majority Republican state. So the fact that they leaned Republican is just a reflection of our population. It was still going to be 2 competitive seats with Map C.
So the question I have for you is this Map 1 looks like it's 3 very, very safe Republican seats and 1 very safe Democrat seat. Is that how you see it? And then,
that's 100% what it is.
Okay.
And the irony here is all of this effort over the last few years has been done under the veneer of trying to avoid political manipulation to get to guaranteed preferred outcomes. Well, that's what we now get with the map decided by Judge Gibson, is political manipulation to get to a guaranteed preferred outcome that otherwise would not have naturally occurred through the process.
So what I'm hearing is, and I know you're the Republican Party chair, not Libertarian Party or something like that, but I'm hearing some of the third parties going, wait, under competitive, we could have some influence of the outcome. Now in these safe seats in Map 1, we're disenfranchised. We're not even at the table. We're not even a player in this.
100%. 100%. This is now 3 Republican guarantees and 1 near Democrat guarantee. You're exactly right. For those that are not political participants with a specific party or are members of one of these other political parties that don't have as many members here in the state of Utah, their relevance in that process would have been elevated with the maps for Map C, and in this situation, they will be an afterthought.
So where does the legislature go from here? Because Lieutenant Governor Henderson said, basically, I need the information by the 10th. And the judge got it to her at 11:40 p.m.
On the 10th.
On the 10th. So now she has to work with the county clerks so they can draw maps because the election cycle starts, January 2nd of next year. So we're just, less than 2 months away. How does the legislature respond with such a short timeline when they're so adamantly opposed to what the judge did?
Yeah, and that's all going to play out through that appeals process, right? But ultimately, the actions of Gibson last night have triggered the preparation until there's a change through the courts. Those maps will be prepared for. That Maps 1, I guess it's referred to, and that's what we'll be prepared for. And again, there will be that legal process. But something I want to make clear. Obviously, I want Republicans to win. I'm a Republican myself. I'm the chair of the Republican Party. I would prefer Republicans win. But the issue I have on this, and you've heard me talk about this over the last number of months, is not a partisan issue. Even if the roles were reversed, if we are ignoring the Constitution and if we are breaking that structural separation of powers and checks and balances from our system, whether it benefits my preferred outcome or is a detriment to my preferred outcome is tertiary. The primary issue that every Utahn should be concerned about is when we break our constitutional structure, we are going to have long-term detriment to our state, to policymaking, to dialogue and discourse, to respectful collaboration. All of that is hampered when we've broken our structure. And that's what's occurring right now with the way that these courts have behaved.
But didn't Proposition 4 add additional clarification to the structure that citizens of Utah did have the right to weigh in?
Keep in mind, if you go back to Prop 4 when it was passed in 2018 and you look at the ballots, it was referred to as a recommending body. Well, what the courts did last year, and then again in late summer, was they took the Proposition 4 established committee and commission, and they've taken it from a recommending body to a binding body. That was not what the people of Utah were asked in 2018 when they barely voted in favor of Prop 4. And I think it goes logically to assume that a number of people who maybe voted for Prop 4 in 2018 and were comfortable with it being a recommending body to the legislature certainly did not anticipate that it was going to become a super law and a super committee that superseded their electoral votes and their representation in the legislature. That's why, among many reasons, but that's why we're bringing this question back to the people of Utah. Do you really want to have unelected and thereby unaccountable to you, the voter, voices deciding the legislative maps and congressional maps that we get to vote for here in Utah? Or do you want people who are accountable to you? The most accountable people in this process to the voters of Utah are their members of the legislature who can be hired and fired through the ballot box.
Thanks for joining us. That was Utah GOP Chair Rob Axson. And when we come back after the break, we're going to have Greg Skordas join us to give us the his legal analysis. But we also want to hear from you. So text us at 57500. We'll read some of your thoughts. And then at 10:05, we're going to hear from Elizabeth Rasmussen, the Executive Director of Better Boundaries. So stay with us over the break.
You've got your whole life ahead of you. So choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
How do you gain an advantage in the #1 economy in the nation? Attend the Utah Business Forward Conference, where Utah's best business minds share their knowledge about the innovation, resilience, strategy, and relationships it takes to propel your business and career to the next level. Get access to leaders in various industries, from product development and manufacturing to finance and entrepreneurship. Make plans today to attend Utah Business Forward on November 17th, 2025 at Hyatt Regency Salt Lake City. Sign up now at forward.utahbusiness.com.
I'm Jordan Wilcox, your Utah tax attorney. When life gets overwhelming, some things tend to fall by the side.
I'm Carlos Sanchez from Draper, Utah. I was managing a business, helping out a business, doing paperwork and getting paid, and my wife got sick. We filed taxes, but then we got audited. And when I went and talked to the IRS, they didn't give me any choice. The IRS pretty much said, this is what you owe us, when are you gonna pay us? And we're talking quite a bit. But every time I drive, I listen to the radio. Jordan Wilcox, Jordan Wilcox. So I figure there's a reason this guy's on the radio. So I called him.
Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today.
The amount that the IRS came up with, close to $250,000, and the offer and compromise was about $7,600. That's it.
This is Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. Let's solve your IRS nightmare. Visit endtaxworry.com.
Go for it. The outcome, it was worth it. I'm okay.
endtaxworry.com.
Progressive has great customer service, and it's easy to reach us because great and easy is the way to be. Like salads, great for you, and so easy you can put any group of veggies in a bowl and it's a salad. A full carrot with a head of cabbage, weird, but still a salad. 1 radish and a couple of green beans, also a salad. 14 blueberries, half an onion, and a sunchoke, odd, yes, but an odd salad. So contact Progressive's customer service by phone, app, or online. It's great and easy, just like salad. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
You know what?
I think the holidays are the worst time of year for your furnace to go out. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and every November it feels like people get extra stressed when faced with the need to replace their furnace. The money they've been saving is supposed to go to Christmas, and now they're faced with a choice: Christmas or comfort. This holiday season, Any Hour Services wants to help alleviate some of that stress with our special holiday financing. No money down and no payments until next year. Plus, if you schedule a free estimate before the end of November, Any Hour Services will give you $2,500 off any full system you buy. And that doesn't even factor in the rebates and incentives you might qualify for. Again, during the month of November, Any Hour Services will give you $2,500 off any furnace and air conditioner you buy. And you can take advantage of our special holiday financing with no money down and no payments until next year. For more details, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So we're continuing to talk about redistricting and the process. And I'll tell you, John, that there have been a number of texters who have weighed in. They're not super happy, actually, with the Republican response. They typically are really liking what the judge did. And I can't read all of them on the air because some of the language is like, you probably can't do that.
This is KSL after all.
Yeah. But look, I mean, this is just an example. The problem with the Utah legislature drawing the electoral maps is they're all Republicans, and therefore independents and Democrats have no voice. I like the new map. Another one, there are several along this line that just basically say they feel unheard and unrepresented. And when they speak to their representative, they're basically told they don't matter. And that this one says, the legislators have always hated it when citizens get involved. Seems like every time there's an initiative that's successful, the legislators then make it harder for the next one, or they just overturn it. I can't believe people are talking about the latest ruling by the judge concerning gerrymandering. Your guests this morning have been blatantly pro-Republican. Well, just wait. But think about what the rest of the people think should be done in a fair manner. I think fairness in Utah is going by the wayside the older I get. Anyway, there's quite a few kind of along those lines.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell folks, remember, fairness is in the eye of the beholder.
That is
right. There's no such thing
as
generic.
So is judicial activism, let me just say, right? So if you don't like the decision the judge made, what I'm hearing now is that people are like, oh, well, then that judge is just an activist. And that doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican.
Yeah. Well, and we used to come from the notion on the conservative side of the spectrum, which is activism is bad. And I would suggest that activism in defense of the Constitution is good. Activism in opposition to the Constitution is bad. And so then it depends on what is the activism. Of course, for lots of folks, fairness will depend on the activism. But this is where it gets to initiatives. You know, when I was a legislator, I represented Northeast Utah County. Well, if something passed or didn't pass in an initiative, I mean, I'd look at how the voters voted in my district. I didn't really care what they did in Salt Lake City. I looked at my district to see what is it that they care about, what is their opinion on that.
Yeah. Look, we have our legal expert and the regular co-host for Inside Sources, Greg Skordas, on the line. Hi, Greg.
Hi, good morning, you guys.
I'm keeping your chair warm for you.
It's so good to hear from you.
Thank you, John. I can't thank you enough.
Look, what can you tell us about, just from the legal interpretation, about this decision by Judge Gibson?
Well, she's certainly thorough, Holly, and she has been throughout. I mean, this is a 91-page ruling, and I've read most of it. I'll be honest, I haven't read all of it. But she goes through, I mean, and we're really focused on state constitutional issues and the right of the citizens, which is an intrinsic part of the state constitution, to reform and create their government. And the citizens really, in all respects, Holly, in the state of Utah, have the authority to do what they've done here. And I think the judge has made that clear, and that is pass a ballot initiative when the legislature doesn't step up to the plate and do something that they feel should be done, such as what they did in 2018, medical cannabis, redistricting, expanded Medicaid. So sometimes the citizens can take matters into their own hands. And the legislature has pushed back and said, look, they vote us into office for that very reason, so that we can pass legislation. This isn't a matter where the citizens pass the laws; the legislature does. And so that give and take has been at the front of this lawsuit. And the judge has said, no, the Constitution obviously prevails in all respects. But after that, citizens' wishes take priority over what the legislature wants, and that's what's happened here. And so the judge has looked at what the citizens did when they passed Proposition 4 and said, this is what they wanted and this is what they got, and those aren't the same things. And so she pushed back. She had the legislature propose some maps. She had the plaintiffs in the lawsuit propose maps, and ultimately decided that the fairest map and the one that most closely aligned with what the ballot initiative requested was this map number, I think it's number 1 now, and that's the one that's going to be used for the 2026 election.
So Greg, I got a question. So map 1 wasn't drawn by the Redistricting Commission, as I understand. Clearly wasn't drawn by the legislature. Appeared to come from the League of Women Voters. How does the judge even pick that map? How does that fit in this process that, if you will, just some group of plaintiffs can propose their own map that gets adopted and promulgated for the state? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so what the judge did was she went through this evidentiary hearing that they had and went through what the experts said. And so there were experts on each side, and it wasn't just 1 or 2. I think there were at least 3, maybe 4 for each side. And she went through and said, okay, the experts, these are not Republicans or Democrats. These are people that are just hired to look at what the legislation says, how the state's broken down, and what maps most closely fit what the citizens wanted by an expert sort of scientific analysis. And she said that map 1 was the one that she believed the experts most closely felt, it showed and outlined exactly what the citizens wanted. So it wasn't just that she picked it out of the air. And it was a very fair question, John. But she said, we rely on experts to tell us what's fair, to tell us what's in line with what the citizens want, and do an analysis. And this is the one that the experts seem to be favoring in terms of what the citizens wanted.
So if I look at process, which is what GOP Rob Axson was talking about, and I look at Article 9, Section 1 of the Utah Constitution, and I'll just pick this snippet. It says, the legislature shall divide the state into congressional districts. How would you advise the legislature? Because they're coming from the perspective of this isn't the legislative power that's split between the people and the legislature. The legislature looks and says, well, that says we do it, not the judge or somebody else. How would you advise them, or how do you explain that to the legislature?
Well, I would say that's what they should do, and that's exactly what they should do going forward as well. But the law doesn't say they should do it in the way that most closely associates with their political affiliation. So in the future, the legislature will be allowed to do this, and they'll continue to do this. But when they run afoul and when they divide a couple of block area in Mill Creek, John, into 4 congressional districts, and so obviously gerrymandering, that the citizens can rise up and say, hey, we gave you the power to do this, but not to do it in that way. And sometimes you can give a body a power to do something, but they have to do it within the bounds of the law and the fairness and the idea that we want to make sure that every citizen's vote counts.
So Greg, we have a number of texters, and they tend to favor the judge's decision, but there's a couple that are saying, look, it's the judge was supposed to interpret but not pick, right? Like the appropriate thing would have been for her to send it back to the legislature. But what is your take on that aspect? Was she right to make this decision and choose a map?
Well, she even talks about that in the ruling. She didn't have a choice because she kept sending it back and said, hey, you guys get this right, get it right. And they could never do so. And so at the end of the day, Holly, the judge had no choice but to select a map because the plaintiffs and the legislature couldn't agree on any. And so what they did was they each threw their maps at the judge and said, okay, this is the one we think is best. No, this is the one that we think is best. This is the one our experts agree on. And the judge was forced, and she didn't want to do this. You can tell from her ruling, she absolutely did not want to have to pick a map, but they left her no choice because the parties couldn't agree on anything, where the legislature and the plaintiffs in the lawsuit could come up with something that was jointly agreeable. Had they done that, we wouldn't even be here, but they just couldn't.
Right. I have one more quick question. right now, it seems likely that there's going to be an appeal process. We also have a state legislator who said he's going to work on impeaching the judge. And we're having, I'm seeing just online, elected officials and others are telling our lieutenant governor to ignore a court order and refuse to implement the judge's order. I'm just wondering if you could tell us in 30 seconds what you think the process for going forward is going to look like.
Well, the immediate process is that the lieutenant governor seems to be willing to follow the judge's ruling and to follow the law. There will be an absolutely, I'm sure, immediate appeal, and they will go. The legislature will go to the Supreme Court, if they haven't by now, probably by the end of the day, and the Supreme Court may very well jump in and do something. I doubt that will occur. But so in the meantime, it looks like the lieutenant governor is willing to follow the law, but the legislature hasn't given up the fight yet. But their only remedy at this point, Holly, is to see if the Utah State Supreme Court, or maybe the U.S. Supreme Court, although I doubt they'll weigh in, is willing to jump in and change what the judge has done. I just don't see that happening here.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was Greg Skordas, and hopefully he'll be back really soon. Next on the line will be Elizabeth Rasmussen, the Executive Director of Better Boundaries. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Families relying on SNAP benefits here in Utah still are not sure when payments will start coming through. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
Utah is among the majority of states who did not receive any SNAP payments from the federal government after an emergency Supreme Court blocked the order. 6 states were able to expedite funds to send out, but Utah is not one of them. Spokesperson for the Department of Workforce Services tells the Salt Lake Tribune they follow guidance from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to fund the benefits, and says they plan to distribute 65% of this month's funding, but not until the 15th. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
The shutdown could end soon, but bills are still due. So the Salt Lake City Department of Public Utilities is offering 90-day payment plans for furloughed federal employees and individuals receiving SNAP. More details are available on their website. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: tariffs, job uncertainty, and the longest shutdown of the federal government in U.S. history have thrown expectations for this coming holiday season up in the air.
The National Retail Federation says polling among its member businesses finds general optimism for spending through the end of the year and the first trillion-dollar holiday shopping season ever. At the same time, accounting giant PwC predicts a 5% drop in the average consumer spending, a 23% decline among Gen Z shoppers.
ABC's Jim Ryan says multiple widely respected surveys have drawn vastly different conclusions. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 326 points this morning to 47,695. Coming up, we've got warm temperatures today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Then it gets colder. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
If you're getting new gutters, make absolutely sure that you don't get screwed. I mean literally, don't get screwed. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And every single gutter company out there uses screws to hold their gutters together at the corners and downspouts. They use screws because they're fast and cheap and easy, but man, they're terrible for your gutters, aside from possibly cutting your hand. They also loosen and corrode over time because they're not made from the same metal as the gutters. At RGS Exteriors, we've been installing gutters for 70 years now, and we don't use screws. We only use permanent, strong, and unobtrusive rivets. They're made from the same material as the gutters, so they won't oxidize and they won't corrode. They'll also never loosen. Your hand is safe too. Did I mention they look amazing? So don't get screwed. Call RGS and get riveted gutters. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsutah.com.
The holiday season is shining bright at Junction Commons Park City. Join them for their second annual tree lighting on Thursday, November 20th, starting at 4 p.m. Bring your family, friends, and neighbors for an evening filled with holiday magic. Enjoy live, festive music, delicious food trucks, and the always popular Swig Soda truck, serving up your favorite drinks. Kids will love getting creative with holiday crafts, and everyone can soak in the sights, sounds, and the magic of the holiday season. As the evening winds down, gather around the highlight of the night when Outlets Park City flip the switch and light up their beautiful holiday tree as they officially kick off the holiday season. It's the perfect way to celebrate. Festive, free, and full of holiday cheer. Don't miss the magic Thursday, November 20th at 4 p.m. at Junction Commons, Park City's second annual tree lighting. Junction Commons, mountaintop holiday fun in Park City.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Heather Kelly.
We're finally back to freeway speeds all across the Wasatch Front. The earlier crash we had in Parley's Canyon eastbound near the summit has cleared, and everybody's traveling quite nicely getting into Park City, although you still have a little bit of slowing if you are traveling between the two Park City exits, Kimball Junction and US 40. That right lane always slows down for some reason. But you're looking good coming out of Tooele County on I-80 over to the airport, and most of the city streets are accident-free right now as well. Odyssey Dance Theater's Christmas Spectacular, starring David Osmond. Fill your heart with the Christmas spirit this year. Visit odysseydance.com for tickets. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, it's mostly sunny skies, a high of 63. It'll be 65 tomorrow. It could get a high of 69 on Thursday. Then temperatures drop into the mid-50s and colder until Monday. Right now, it is 50 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And I'm John Dougal, filling in for Greg Skordas, here with Holly. Great to be with you. Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, thanks. You know, I come from a military family, so I have a dad and several brothers. And yeah, we'll talk about that later in the show. But yeah.
Sounds good. And it's warming up to be a nice fall day. Not quite winter here in November. Earlier this morning, we spoke with Republican Party Chair Rob Axson about Judge Gibson's ruling last night. We also talked with Greg Skordas.
Yep.
A little legal analysis there, our resident attorney. And now we're going to hear from Elizabeth Rasmussen from Better Boundaries to get their opinion. Elizabeth, are you with us?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Tell us what you thought of Judge Gibson's ruling.
Overall, it is such a win for Utah voters. We finally are getting what voters passed in 2018. So it's been nearly 7 years since that moment. So overall, we're very excited and are celebrating this win.
So, Elizabeth, you've, I'm sure, seen and heard pushback on this decision.
No, pushback on this.
From Republican elected officials, other supporters of the Republican Party. There's a call for impeaching the judge, and not only a call, but legislation already being prepared. Do you think that the pushback will be strong enough to overturn this decision? And I realize it's not just pushback, right? But do you think as this goes to the Utah Supreme Court or maybe the U.S. Supreme Court, will this be overturned?
Well, the courts have been very clear on this issue that if the legislature fails to follow the law, the court has an obligation and a duty to step in to make sure they comply. And this has happened across the United States. The Utah Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court has been very clear on this issue. And so we are prepared, and I know the legal team is prepared to defend this decision in court. And overall, the legislature had 7 years to follow the law. And at every turn that they had the opportunity presented to them, they chose not to. And so this is the court doing their constitutional duty and ensuring that we have a map that complies with the law.
So I just have a quick follow-up question. It feels like they're saying that they're going to do this really immediate appeal, and yet I'm wondering on the timing. Do you believe that this map 1, will that stand for the 2026 election cycle?
Well, the Lieutenant Governor's office has stated that whatever map is in place, it needs to be in place by the 10th for candidate filings and what comes from that. So, one thing I've learned from this is everything can change. Everything's up in the air. I can't expect anything at this point, but it seems, at least from the Lieutenant Governor's office, that this map will be used for the 2026 election cycle.
Elizabeth, and maybe I'm remembering wrong. I seem to remember for years Better Boundaries talking about the importance of competitive seats. And as I look at map 1, it looks like they're not competitive seats. They're 4 safe seats, 3 safe Republican seats, 1 safe Democrat seat. Am I remembering wrong, or what does this look like from you guys' perspective? Because many Utahns are going to ask that kind of question. And we're going to have other third parties that are going to say, hey, we're now disenfranchised because in competitive seats, we've got a chance to influence the election. Now we have no chance.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've been, at least from when I have been in this position, I've been in this position from the beginning of this year, have been focused primarily on the standards written in Proposition 4. We got to make sure cities are kept together, counties kept together, that we respect communities of interest. And that's really important that we do that. And so overall, we're about the process. And the judge, in her decision, it's a beautiful decision if you read it, it's very thorough, shows that this map complies best with Prop 4, which is the law. And so if you go back to the standards, compare the map to the standards, it follows it to the T.
So tell me what your, what is your response to efforts to impeach the judge? Or like I'm seeing on X today, flat out telling the lieutenant governor to ignore a direct court order.
My question back is, what about checks and balances? We need to respect institutions, and this isn't an unprecedented event. This has happened before in other states. The court was in their right to be interpreting the law. That's their job. And so to impeach a judge or to criticize the court just because you disagree with the decision politically, that is a huge problem and something that should concern everyone, frankly. And so from this decision, if you read it and see how they applied the law, it is very within their constitutional right to do so. And again, the legislature had 7 years to comply, and every chance they had, they chose not to. And so this is why the court had to step in. So they were doing their job at this moment. They weren't overreaching. This is within their authority to do what they did last night.
So Prop 4 was an initiative run and put in front of the voters. The Republican Party, or members of the Republican Party, are now pushing an initiative to undo Prop 4. What are your thoughts on that?
It's within their right to do so. That's one of the beautiful things about our state. We have the right to alter and reform our government, guaranteed in the Constitution. And so voters next year, if they gather the right number of signatures, they'll have the opportunity to reaffirm their decision that they want to process for transparency and checks and balances. So the legislature doesn't have the unilateral authority to draw maps, but that they're checked on that power. And so we will take this challenge head on and educate voters on what it is they'd be signing or voting for or against. But overall, it's just the process playing out, and we are focused on elevating the voices of Utahns, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Elizabeth, we've got 1 minute left. Let me ask this quick question. The legislature feels like with the initiative, we now have this super statute. It's not constitutional language. It's not regular statutory language. It's some higher standard of statute. How would you answer that question that they're wrestling with, trying to understand that concept from the Supreme Court?
They're able to make changes if they're within the bounds of a constitutional reason, or they meet strict scrutiny, basically. But that's not what they did. When they repealed Prop 4, they took away the substance of the law. They completely undid it, and they continue to do that. And so that isn't just a change or an alteration. That's completely ignoring the will of the people. And so what the court has done is reinstated the law and the true intent, and that's what we're celebrating today.
And strict scrutiny for our listeners is a heightened standard for judges. They look to see, does the government have a compelling interest? Is it narrowly tailored to meet that interest? So it's a very difficult bar for the legislature to clear.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Elizabeth. That was Elizabeth Rasmussen, the Executive Director of Better Boundaries. Look, we're going to continue with court decisions, but this time we're going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. They just rejected one case, and they're taking on some other interesting ones. We're going to talk about the latest when we come back.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions and bring you a special Black Friday offer.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/radio. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection, plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code POWER to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Hard to believe, but Black Friday's here, and you know what that means. It's time for Black Friday money deals at UCCU.
There is an annual tradition now for Black Friday at UCCU where people look forward to, because unlike other Black Friday sales, Black Friday at UCCU is your chance to actually improve your finances.
Like a home equity loan with extra 0.25% off the intro rate, auto and RV loans with no payment for 90 days, low-rate credit cards with 0% interest for 6 months, and $150 cash just for signing up for direct deposit.
It's so easy, and that's just the beginning of Black Friday money deals. Keep going to uccu.com every week for new premium deals that will unlock, and they're things like cutting your auto loan rate in half, to earning a higher interest rate on your savings, enter each week for a chance to win these awesome prizes.
But you got to visit UCCU.com every week. But if you come back and enter every time a new deal unlocks, you can win them all. So don't just enter once. Go every week, unlock every deal, and win big this Black Friday at UCCU.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
So, you want to be a hero. Here are some ways to get the job. Hunt down that killer shark. Or run into a burning house to save a kitten. Luckily, there's an easier way to become a hero. Call 911 if you see someone experiencing the symptoms of stroke. Sudden weakness on one side or trouble speaking, walking, or seeing. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. You'll be a real hero. A message from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke.
Inside Sources.
So the U.S. Supreme Court has had a busy week. They actually declined to take on a new look at the Obergefell decision, which was the decision that allowed same-sex couples to marry. So they just said, no, we're not going to take that up. So they also are looking.
And this is where, conservatives were wanting them to take a second bite of the apple,
yeah,
and reconsider that decision and maybe overturn it.
Because they had reconsidered Roe v. Wade and did overturn that, right? So I think this is along that same decision path. Well, hey, they overturned this one. Maybe they'll overturn this other one. We have with us Kelsey Dallas. She's the managing editor for SCOTUS blog, and she is up on all these things. And for non-attorneys like me, she breaks it down so I can understand. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, so can you give us just a little bit of context on maybe the decline to take up Obergefell?
Yeah, it was an interesting situation where the petition was getting way more news coverage than basically any other petition the court has in front of it. Petitions typically fly below the radar because the chances of one being taken up are so slim. But obviously, as you noted, when the court has overturned major precedents in recent years, there is a certain interest in opportunities to overturn other precedents and seeing whether the court will take that on. This petition came from Kim Davis, who was in a national spotlight in 2015 after the Supreme Court said that same-sex marriage was legal nationwide. She was a county clerk in Kentucky and did not want to issue marriage licenses to gay couples for religious reasons, so it became a religious freedom fight. That lawsuit was ongoing for essentially 10 years between Davis and one of the gay couples that she turned away. She had been ordered to pay them $100,000 due to her refusal. And when it got to the stage where Davis was appealing to the Supreme Court, she also asked the court to revisit that 2015 same-sex marriage ruling. It got some interest because originally the couple had what's called waived their right to respond, basically saying we don't think this is worth the court's time and it's not even worth our time to address Kim Davis's question. But one of the justices, one or more, said, no, we really want you to weigh in on this. And so that sort of got court watchers' ears up and thinking, wait, what's happening here? But it only took the justices that one review at Friday's private conference to say, nope, we're not going to hear this. And so now that original $100,000 judgment against Kim Davis remains in place, and there's no more avenues for her to pursue.
So, Kelsey, if I understand correctly, generally a petitioner doesn't have a right to go to the Supreme Court. They can petition, ask whether the court will hear it, and it doesn't take something like 4 justices to say, yes, we'll hear it.
Yep. For anybody can file that type of petition, but the odds are stacked against them just because the court receives thousands of requests and only typically will take up maybe 60, 70, or 80 cases for oral arguments in a term.
And how many requests do they get in a year?
Well, it varies, but by my recollection, it's something like in the thousands.
So 80 out
when
of
we talk
thousands.
about, the grant rate being in the single digits.
Yeah.
So can you break down, this is another argument. So this is mail-in ballots, and we've had an issue here in Utah. In fact, the Utah legislature changed the law this year to say anything, even if it was postmarked before, if it's not in the county clerk's hand by 8 p.m. on the day of the election, it's not going to count. But now the Supreme Court is going to take that issue up. Can you tell us about that argument?
Yeah, this was another petition before the justices at their conference on Friday, and unlike the Kim Davis one, it actually has been taken up and will be heard. It specifically centers on a Mississippi law that allows mail-in ballots to be counted as even if they don't arrive until 5 business days after Election Day. But in considering that Mississippi law, the court is expected to consider this range of policies on mail-in ballots. As you noted, Utah has debated this. Several other states have debated this. And really the key question is, does a mail-in ballot have to be in election officials' hands on or before Election Day in order for it to be counted? This is pretty significant because if the court says, yes, you have to have that mail-in ballot by the end of Election Day, several states would have to sort of message that and make it very clear to voters that they need to change their habits to move a little more quickly to get those ballots in the mail.
I have just a quick follow-up on that. So would this, if they decided the other way, that you have 5 business days to count it, would that override Utah law?
No, I believe it would just leave it up to states to set these. So the 5 days is at issue in this Mississippi law that's at the center of the case they took up. And I don't believe the court's ruling would mandate 5 days. They would just say that states do have the leeway to set these time, like grace periods.
Kelsey, let's pivot to a different topic. Last week, they actually heard oral arguments when it came to Trump's tariffs under his emergency powers that he says he can impose these tariffs. What were your thoughts on the oral arguments, and what way did the court seem to be leaning?
Well, as part of my work at SCOTUS Blog, I put together a daily newsletter, and the day after those oral arguments, I gave our readers a sampling of headlines from major outlets about how the tariffs arguments had gone. And what was somewhat amusing is that almost every major outlet used the word skeptical in the headline. Justices appear skeptical of Trump's tariffs. And that's probably what I would say to folks wanting to know more about the arguments, is that the justices ask very tough questions of the Trump administration, challenging their interpretation of this law on emergency powers, challenging the idea that President Trump had the authority under it to impose the tariffs. That doesn't mean, however, that the skepticism is going to definitely lead to a ruling that overturns or blocks the tariffs, because you can ask someone tough questions and think, oh, I appreciated their answers to those. And so several of the legal experts that work with SCOTUS Blog said they were struck at oral argument by the tough questions asked of both sides of the case, and felt like the decision is actually much closer than several people thought going into arguments. In other words, we could be looking at a 6-3 or 5-4 decision in either direction.
So we're not going to have a 9-0.
doesn't seem that way. The other question that has come up is when exactly will we know the court's answer? And that's difficult to say because even when the court aims to move quickly, as it has said it will in this case, that could mean 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. That might sound silly, but it just takes so long for the justices to come to a consensus around sort of what type of decision the majority will issue and then draft that opinion and then argue about that draft and make adjustments. And then they have to sort of have a conversation with the dissenting opinion. So it really might be a couple more weeks from now before we hear what the court has to say.
So a couple weeks is pretty darn quick. What's
quick.
Yeah, usually you'd be talking something like June.
Yeah.
What's expediting? What's forcing the court to move faster on this tariff issue?
The court had been asked to expedite its decision by the petitioners. So in one of the combined cases, it was the Trump administration, and the other, it was a group of small businesses. It heard these two different tariff challenges together. But basically, the justices had been asked and then agreed. I shouldn't speak for the court, but I believe the court was sympathetic to the idea that when you have something like the tariffs where every single day the businesses and then consumers are having to pay for these tariffs, then the court needs to act quickly to decide what to do, because otherwise you're just sort of continuing this situation that might need to be unwound.
Yeah, and by unwound, meaning refunded. If the government has to refund
that's part
tariffs,
of the argument,
that's messy.
Too, as you might have as you might have already addressed, is that the court was wondering if it needs to address refunds, it needs to order refunds, or if maybe there's a situation where the court might say the tariffs need to be unwound, but that maybe refunds aren't necessary. So that's all up in the air right now.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Kelsey Dallas, managing editor for SCOTUS blog. And if you haven't signed up for her newsletter, you really should do that. It's really informational. All right, John, what do Americans think about aging?
Oh, it sucks.
It actually depends on what age you are when you're asked that question. So we're going to talk with Lois Collins next about a new study when we come back after the break.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: Utah's Democratic lawmakers are reacting to a judge's decision to move forward with a congressional map created and supported by a redistricting committee. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
Democrats in the Utah Senate and House issued a short statement on social media pages saying they feel relief and hope after seeing the ruling and consider it a win for Utahns. They also say, quote, "We took an oath to serve the people of Utah, and fair representation is the truest measure of that promise," end quote. Lieutenant Governor and Chief Election Officer Deidre Henderson says she will comply with the decision and start implementing the map. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News: the Senate voted 60-40 last night to pass a short-term spending bill that would end the government shutdown. Now, that bill heads to the GOP-controlled House for final passage.
Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries says his members will fight the bill. But given that 8 Senate Democrats voted to pass it, at least some in the House are expected to cross the aisle to send it to the president's desk. The measure would fund agencies through the end of January and require any federal workers laid off during the shutdown to be reinstated. Drawing most Democrats' ire, the bill does not extend expiring COVID-era tax credits that have made health insurance exchange plans more affordable.
That was ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy with the latest from Washington. Your money at this moment: the Dow up 391 points now to 47,760. Coming up today, tomorrow, Wednesday. Wait, tomorrow is Wednesday. Thursday are warm, then it starts to cool down. We'll check traffic and weather together next.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Ryden. For years, I've been telling you about products I truly believe in and that we use in our home. And one is Kinetico. We all know the downsides of hard water, tough on home appliances, frustrating spots on shower doors. but it also affects your personality. When you shower, does the water feel invigorating? Hard water can leave your skin feeling sticky and itchy. A Kinetico soft water system changes everything. It's like having a luxurious spa experience when you shower, making your daily routine something you look forward to. Kinetico, it's a difference you can feel. Their patented system uses far less salt than competitors, and they're exclusively focused on water softeners. They're the experts in their field, and they'll show you the difference for free with no obligation to buy. Call Kinetico Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized independent dealer, at 801-576-8600, or check them out online at softwaterutah.com. Start enjoying your water. Spoil yourself every day.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it! Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
JTV, Jewelry Television. With 80,000 jewelry looks, we're kind of a big deal. Even bigger with new lines of designer handbags, fragrances, and more. And biggest of all, because you could win a 7-night stay in Bali, spending money, and thousands worth of JTV jewelry, making you kind of a big deal. Enter by December 7th at jtv.com/sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Then watch JTV on TV or shop jtv.com for big holiday deals.
Most folks wait till January to say, I should probably fix this or do something about how you feel. But you know what? You're going to go into 2026 with the resolution already done, because soda helps you lose the weight now, so your New Year's all celebration.
You and I both started our soda weight loss journey in October and November, right? And I loved going into holiday parties knowing I had a plan. It wasn't just, I'm going to try not to. It was, this is my plan, because I've spoken with a nutritionist and I get a jump start on that, first of the year goal by beginning soda weight loss right now.
Yeah, there's no guesswork. You're supported every step of the way, and you need that. And right now, there's an amazing offer from Soda for you and your partner. You join, and your partner joins for free.
So why gain 20 pounds just to lose it in the new year? Go to Soda Weight Loss today and begin today.
That's sodaweightloss.com, SOTA weightloss.com, because soda is, say it with me, Amanda, state of the art. Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And here's Heather Kelly with an update.
Well, still no delays anywhere across the Wasatch Front. Earlier, we had a traffic stoppage for just a couple of minutes in Utah County. That was northbound I-15 around Pleasant Grove. But it looks like all the lanes are moving again. It looks like maybe debris was being cleaned off the roadway. City streets are the ones that have most of the congestion. It's usually at larger intersections when lights turn red. Other than that, I haven't heard of an accident reported throughout Utah, Salt Lake, or Davis counties, and things are looking good now going to and from Park City. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, 63 degrees. We're looking for a high with partly cloudy skies, increasing clouds tomorrow, Thursday, even as temperatures go up. But then the rain comes in by Friday morning as a cold front moves, and then we have cooler temperatures into next week. Right now, it's 52 degrees in Salt Lake City. Listen, I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So I'm Holly Richardson, and John Dougal is my co-host today. But look, I have to ask you, John, when you were maybe a teenager, what did you think was old?
What did I think was, well, I remember when I got married and I was 23 and I thought my parents were old and they were over 40.
So
it was just like they were ancient.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I'm right on the cusp of turning 60. And,
yeah.
I'm not quite as old as the Marine Corps that just turned 250.
250, yep. So I remember being 17 and thinking that 30 was really, really old. And my kids think I'm ancient. I am 60. I'm almost 61. And so we have in studio with us, it's Lois Collins. She writes for the Deseret News. And
she's one of those young, what are you,
youngins.
21,
She's
22?
a youngin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
she's a
at
youngin
least
with
3
years
times.
of experience. But there was a new Pew Research study that asked Americans what they thought about aging. And I was not surprised that it depended on what age they were, what they thought about it. So tell us, Lois, what do people think about aging?
So people who are doing it, people who are 65 and older, are not super unhappy about it. People who are younger than that are super worried about it.
Yeah.
Unless you're 8 and then you're happy about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of aging, I was at a conference recently and somebody was telling me this funny thing that happened the night before and said this elderly woman, and I realized I was the elderly woman.
You resemble that comment, huh?
Yeah, it was. And I told her I was the elderly woman, and she's like, "Oh no!" It's like, yeah, I'm elderly. I don't care.
I look around at all these old people and find out
they're your
they're my age,
high school colleagues.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You ever been to an Eagles concert? We're all the same age. Great concert, all the same age. Anyway,
playing down in Vegas.
What the study found was that there's a lot of worry and fretting among people who are younger, and people who are older say they're doing it very well. 2/3 of them say that their mental health is good, their health is pretty good. They can't maybe do some of the physical things they used to do. They may struggle with them, but they're doing well. Yeah. And part of it depends on, of course, genetics and whether or not you have some sort of chronic condition that limits you in some way. Some of it depends on income, because if you can afford it, you can get the kind of help you need. But most people say they're fine. 60% say that their mental health is excellent. 66% say that they're optimistic most of the time. 70% have some sort of support, family support, friends who will check in on them. 37% say their health is very good, but there are a lot of people who say their health is pretty good or good. So that's a good thing. Only 1/3 say that they're sometimes isolated or lonely, and 24% say that they experience some mental confusion and memory loss. People who are older hope to live, most of them, to be at least 80. The average age is 91. 3 out of 5 want to live to be 100. That, by the way, is not my goal.
Wow.
So it's a pretty healthy picture. It's a pretty happy.
That's interesting to me. My own mom, and I'll share this about her. So she's 83, getting ready to turn 84, and about, I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago, some of the kids were kind of teasing her about getting older, and she says, "I'm not old." I'm like, well, what age is old then? And she said 85, and now that number is like 90. So like it's a parallel line, right? As she gets older, the age to be old is
it's in
older.
front of you. It's not where you are. I am not old. I mean, my dad's in his 80s, and I tell him, "Dad, you're trying to live like you're 60.
Yeah.
And you don't want to accept that you're not 60 anymore."
Yeah.
Don't you feel that way, though, with your parents? Like, when I was younger, I figured that 70 would be old, and when my dad got to be 70, the thought of him being old was too hard. So I'm like, nah, he's not old. It's 80 when you're old.
Well, my maternal grandfather, I mean, he lived to be almost 103. He graduated from college, I think, at 81.
Wow.
So, and he carried the Olympic torch on his 100th birthday.
Wow. Last year, I wrote for the Deseret News when I turned 60, which was last December. I wrote that 60 is the new 40, and I had so many people commenting and saying, yeah, right? I mean, I will say for me personally, I'm not 65 yet, but I'm in better health than I was for most of the years where I was raising kids, because I took zero time for myself. I was a lot overweight. My blood sugar was through the roof, but I never had it checked because I did not have time to take myself to the doctor, right? And so now I'm fixing all the things that I ignored for that time, and I'm in a lot better health than I was even 20 years ago.
Isn't it great to grow a little bit older and discover that you're a fixer-upper?
Yeah,
but you can be rehabbed. Works for
that's
me.
so funny. So what did younger people worry about when they anticipated hitting 65?
They worry about health. They worry about mental acuity, and more than anything, they worry about whether or not they will be able to afford
money,
retirement, or if they'll never retire.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of concern about money issues and about whether Social Security will be there, whether some of the safety nets will still be there.
Those sound like fair worries, actually.
Yeah, it's
not very fair. I've known a couple of folks, one individual, and his father and I think his grandfather both passed away when they were 50. So when he hit his 50th birthday, he was just terrified. Am I going to live past 50? And then when he hit 60, he felt like, okay, things are pretty good now. Something's different. But what advice would you give to those that are aging when you talk about those concerns?
Be happy, socialize, keep exercising your brain, keep exercising your body. Don't shy away from social connections. Sometimes people sort of withdraw when they get older, and it's like one of the worst things you can do. Pay attention to your sleep, your nutrition. It's the same stuff that you should do when you're 17 and 28 and 45.
Yeah.
You just need
don't
to...
Don't go to bed at 3 a.m.
Yeah, no, probably not
Live on
most of the
Twinkies.
time.
Oh, my
yeah,
gosh.
So
That
flashback
catches
to
up.
17.
That catches up with you. It does. It does. So, Lois, you mentioned to us just before we started this that there are actually some things to do to keep our brains active as we age. And John and I were talking. We both were non-traditional students. He just finished his degree as an attorney, and I got a PhD when I was 57. And I swear I could hear my brain creaking as I was making new neural connections.
Overachievers. Yeah.
No, but it was one of the things that I thought about going back to school. It's like, you know what? I know that I've seen some stuff. If you continue to use your brain and learn new things, then you can stave off sometimes problems with dementia.
And a couple of the best things that you can do, people think that just like reading a book, that's great. Reading is really good. But the things that you can do that really stretch your brain, learn to play a musical instrument, learn a language, take different routes, do things differently, even things as simple as brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand.
Oh, interesting.
Retrain your brain to do. They stretch. So do things differently. Don't be somebody who I've always done it this way and that's what I'm going to do, because you won't get to do it for very long.
Oh, interesting.
And that toothpaste all over your face helps your complexion.
As you're doing it with the non-dominant hand. Okay, so what do you have advice for people who are younger facing, well, you kind of mentioned some of the things, but what do you have to recommend for the financial worries? Anything?
So, right now we're in such a funny position because a lot of the financial issues are really, really true. The inflation, all sorts of things are costing more. There's a lot of uncertainty, but my first recommendation is don't get a 50-year mortgage on your house.
Well, thank you for that tease, because that's what we're talking about next segment.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. And if they offered to sell you a new car on a 10-year loan, probably not. You'll pay 3 times what you should pay for the car.
Speaking from wisdom.
Really, the thing that you should do the most when you're young is choose to live in light, to be happy. Don't ruminate about things. Choose to make friends and to accept things as you go and to become resilient. Work on your mental well-being is probably the most important place.
Thanks so much, Lois. That's Lois Collins with the Deseret News, and we are talking about 50-year mortgages when we come back.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions and bring you a special Black Friday offer.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/radio. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection, plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
Join the KSL Movie Show this Friday at Advanced Window Products from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tune in for a show special for KSL listeners from Advanced Window Products.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
Imagine all that could happen in 5 years. Jobs may change, kids grow, new memes will come out. But also, what if you had reliable, intelligent Wi-Fi and the price didn't change for 5 years? Thanks to the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee, you actually don't have to worry about that part of your future. You're guaranteed 5 years of Wi-Fi that boosts speeds to your devices that need the most, that finds and fixes any issues before you even notice them. It's like a super intelligent Wi-Fi that keeps you protected from threats online. Plus, you get incredible gaming speeds on multiple devices with no one battling for bandwidth. For the next 5 years, all your devices will be working in perfect harmony, and you get their best equipment with no annual contracts, no fees, no strings. So even though your kids will grow up and you still won't understand 6-7, your internet will stay sharp, reliable, and most important, the price will stay put. All with the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Select plans only.
Mr. Mac, suiting for every important chapter of your life. Weddings, proms, new job, any celebration, mission callings, and more. Mr. Mac's there to suit your needs with 9 locations or MrMac.com.
The new Inside Sources.
Welcome back. This is John Dougal filling in for Greg Skordas with Holly Richardson. Holly, aging. One of those things, you know, we talk about.
It's better than the alternative, right? Because if you don't age, you're dead. So it's better than the alternative.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. Positive. Power of positive thinking.
I
right there,
I
folks.
like being 60. I like being 60.
So,
but
it's
I will not
things.
ever have a 50-year mortgage. I will say that.
I hate 30-year mortgages. You know, folks know me as Frugal Dougal. And that's one of those concerns I have is even the 30-year mortgage, you buy more house than you can really afford. So what are your thoughts? I mean, President Trump has put out this idea of a plan to have a 50-year mortgage.
Yeah.
And I joke with folks, this has all the downsides of renting and all the downsides of home ownership married together.
Yeah, right, with neither one of the upsides. So it's interesting to me. I don't know that it will really catch on, but one of the things that that struck me was something that you shared from the Babylon Beat, which is a satire site, but I thought it was very funny because it probably has a lot of truth in it.
Dave Ramsey, we all know Dave Ramsey.
Right.
Is in critical condition after learning a 50-year mortgage. It was just hilarious,
like
but so true.
A Photoshop thing of him in the ICU.
He's one of those, basically.
Yeah.
Don't spend money you don't have.
Right. And it's like he's one who advocates for paying off your mortgage early, right? So one of the things that's interesting to me is is President Trump, as he was talking to a reporter, said it's not that big of a leap to go from a 40-year mortgage to a 50-year mortgage. And the reporter had to remind him, we don't have 40-year mortgages.
Right.
Unless you like refinance, 10 years into your mortgage and you do another 30 years. But we don't have 40-year mortgages. We have 15, we have 30.
30 came along with FDR.
So tell us about that, because I don't know that story.
Well, just my understanding is FDR was one of those that was pushing, and we now have the 30-year mortgage, courtesy of the efforts that he pushed right around the Great Depression and World War II. So
yeah. So then the thought behind that, right, is going to be, well, if you spread out how long you have to pay off a loan, you can afford it.
Well, let's start with the issue. Housing's too expensive.
Right.
And so the issue is housing's too expensive. So rather than fixing the problem of housing being too expensive, and I would contend too many problems with local, state, and federal regulations and so forth that impair, tariffs not helping in this process, broken immigration system not helping in this process. Instead of fixing those problems, we're going to layer on this 50-year of debt. You're a slave to debt, and we are going to layer in this debt for 50 years of your life. So every day you're aging.
Yeah.
Most people don't buy a house when they're 20.
Right.
Which means you go look and say, I think I was 30 when I bought my first house.
Yeah.
So I'd be 80 if I was paying it over 50 years.
That is right. And the age of average home buyers in the U.S. has gone up considerably. It is now in the mid to later 30s for people to buy their first home. So one of the things that is interesting is, like, if the idea behind it is you're going to spread out your payments, and by the way, there's a proposal to do that with car payments as well, make it for much longer. But
this is why Lois mentioned the
10-year car loans, right?
Yeah.
But the idea behind it is that you're going to save money because you're going to spread this out. Well, look, some of the people have crunched the numbers, and I'm looking at a report from The Hill is saying 50-year mortgages could lower monthly payments on an average home, so not Utah average, but national average, say $400,000 home. You would only see a savings of like $200 a month for 50 years of paying your mortgage, which of course means you're going to pay a gazillion dollars more in your interest payments.
Yeah, well, and this is one of those things. I mean, I go back to credit cards. We live in a world in which people love their credit cards.
Yeah.
And they finance purchases today and spread it out over months to years, and you're just scratching your head. And Congress has this problem.
Well, Congress doesn't know how to budget their anything.
$38 trillion of debt.
Yeah.
Which is just going on forever and ever and ever. And recently in the last 15 years or so, we got rid of a tax that was put in place in the Spanish-American War on your phones, and it was just ridiculous. It was there forever.
Yeah, it is there forever. So it made me think, when we started talking about 50-year mortgages, it made me think, I've heard stories of other countries that have 100-year mortgages because there's so much disparity between what you earn and how much housing costs. So then you're multi-generational, right? Then you're committing your kids and your grandkids to live in this family home for 100 years.
Yeah, and I won't ask you if you had a mortgage or how long it took to pay off. For me,
my mortgage is not paid off. I'm still paying.
So for me, my goal was 15 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I had I think it was a 7-year adjustable rate mortgage. That was all I could get at the time.
Yeah.
Rolled that over to a 30-year, but paid it off 14 years, 11 months.
Whoa.
Boom. So met the goal. But
well, John Frugal Dougal, you live up to your name. So
sometimes my wife just calls me cheap. But that's the thing. It's balancing what is the size of house.
Yeah.
And there are some things I always tell my kids, there's difference between needs and wants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You need a house or some place to live. You want one that's of this size with these features, with this, da-da-da-da-da. And I look at, I mentioned my grandfather in the previous segment. Okay. I look at the size of his home versus the size of my home when I bought it, back 1996, almost 30 years ago, much bigger. And you look at the average size house today is even bigger than the size of my house. And
that's probably Utah, right? I don't know if that's nationwide, but people talk about the McMansions. Look, I have a big house. I do, because we had a really big family, but it also,
like I said, needs versus wants.
Yeah. When we bought our house, it was still on a septic tank, and and it had just barely moved off of propane to heat it to natural gas because we lived in the boonies of Pleasant Grove, but now it's been 22 years.
The boonies of Pleasant Grove.
We are not the boonies anymore, but yeah, literally, we had like 6 houses on our street when we moved in, and now everything's developed around us. All the farms are gone, and we have all these houses.
You have all the amenities now.
Yeah, I have sewer. We connected to sewer about 20 years ago, so yay!
There you go.
Instead of a septic tank. Look, there is a texter who says there's 40-year mortgages. Just ask Californians. So anyway,
did the texter say whether it was a good idea or not?
I don't. Didn't say. But I would say that it's.
I'm curious what our listeners would think. What was that number? 57500.
Yeah, if you think it's a good idea to do a 50-year mortgage, multi-generational. I don't know. I don't know that it's going to catch on, but who's going to have to do it? The banks, right? I guess they would have to revisit.
Well, really, what's going to end up happening is probably the government is doing these mortgages, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and they're going to get into the 50-year mortgage business. And banks really aren't going to do it. They're going to maybe issue them and then pass it off to the government. So the government's going to be backstopping all these mortgages.
So if you're paying so much in interest up front, right, because that's where the bulk of the interest goes, it's going to take a long time for there to be equity in that house over a 50-year mortgage. Even if the market goes up, right, but you have been paying forever, but it goes to interest.
Well, and so this gets to the question, which is, we're a more mobile society.
Yeah.
Is somebody really going to live? I mean,
right.
I could think about my grandfather and say, yeah, he was going to live there a long time. And he assumed that when he moved into it.
Yeah.
But today, is a young 20 or 30-something buying a home going to assume that they're going to live there for 50 years or more?
Yeah, and I don't think so, right? And even in our home, we're looking at downsizing, but it would be right now, because the market is really kind of frozen, right? We have this really great interest rates, like 2.5%, right? And because we're not downsizing, then there's not stuff for people to move into. I get that. But at some point, my husband and I, this house is too big for us. And so we do want to downsize. We don't want to stay in the house, even to finish out a 30-year mortgage, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then people are having smaller families, so they don't necessarily need as much house as we might have needed 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, for sure. And one texter says, it's idiotic. It's exactly what the experts said, making a problem worse while making the banks richer. I think you're the expert.
There you go. Yeah, let's really focus on how to address the cost of housing. And there's various issues and factors there. Some government-driven, some industry-driven, some personally driven.
There's all kinds of stuff, right?
I talked about, but this is...
To stretch it out an extra 20 years to save $200 a month is, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm one of those. It's get out of debt as quickly as you can, pay it off early, because that gives you freedom, that gives you flexibility for the uncertainty of whatever might happen.
Again, you are the frugal Dougal. Okay, look, as we remember our veterans today, we honor those we've lost as well, and the ones we're fortunate to have. So we're going to talk more about Veterans Day when we come back after this break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A Utah judge has approved a new congressional map for the state's future elections, but it wasn't the one selected by lawmakers. Utah GOP Party Chair Robert Axson says the Utah Constitution gives elected members of the state legislature the authority to draw congressional boundaries. And the judge took that power away and put it in the hands of an unelected advocacy group.
I believe that what happened with the courts over the last year plus has created constitutional confusion. What happened last night has created a constitutional crisis.
Axson tells Inside Sources state legislative leaders will decide if and when to appeal the judge's ruling, and he's ready to support whatever path they choose to pursue. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump has laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier this morning at Arlington National Cemetery.
Today, to every veteran, we love our veterans, we say the words too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much.
President Trump also said that America stands tall because veterans stood strong, and that American warriors never quit. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 478 points. The S&P is up 11 points. And coming up, 63, mostly sunny. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
250 years ago, a promise was made to connect families and friends near and far. And during the holidays, that promise is more important than ever. That's why USPS is building a better network to meet your needs with timely deliveries, easy and affordable ways to ship, and everything you need to make your season full of holiday cheer. Our purpose is delivering your peace of mind, knowing your love will arrive, bringing joy to all. The United States Postal Service. Learn more at USPS.com/holidays.
Makita knows that pros never settle, and neither do we. With Makita, you get tools that perform at the highest level on every job without compromise. Makita is for the most detailed pros, expertly engineered to deliver precision, job after job. When your work calls for the best, call on Makita. Makita, built to be the best. Available at the Home Depot.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
In today's digital world, outdated technology can slow you down. You need a partner who keeps you ahead of the curve. At Les Olson IT, we help your business thrive with top-tier office technology, from copiers and IT hardware to advanced IT services and security solutions. With Les Olson IT, you get more than just products. You get solutions, service, and a team that cares. Les Olson IT, empowering businesses with the tools for success.
Les Olson IT.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we're still accident-free right now all across the Wasatch Front. That includes on the city streets and major freeways. Now, most of the traffic is on a freeway like I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties, and that is at speed either direction heading into downtown Salt Lake City. You also have a good commute going in or out of Tooele County on I-80, as well as through Parleys Canyon to and from Park City. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 63 today with mostly sunny skies. The haze in the air sticks around over the next few days, and we'll see temperatures near 70 degrees on Thursday. A storm moves in on Friday, cooling things down. Right now, it is 54 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Today it's Holly Richardson and John Dougal. And John, you noted earlier in the show, today is Veterans Day. So I wanted to talk just a minute about what Veterans Day is. So it's a public holiday, so banks are closed. You won't get your mail today. And it is to honor everybody who has served in the United States Armed Forces, both in wartime and in peacetime. So it's different than Memorial Day. It's not just people who've died. It's different than the veterans of foreign wars. It's for all veterans. And so I actually come from a family of Air Force officers. So my dad was a career Air Force officer, and then I had two brothers who went to the Air Force Academy. They both served in the Air Force, and then they served in the Air Force Reserves. But it was originally called Armistice Day. You know that, right?
I knew that.
Because it was the end of World War I, and it was they signed the armistice, or the basically the notice ending the war, World War I, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And so it used to be called Armistice Day. And that's why we have it on November 11th. And it's not like the first or the second Monday of November or something, right? It's on the 11th.
Day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, and we've got with us, because if you're talking veterans, you're probably also familiar with somebody named Jenny Taylor. And Jenny is the founder of the Major Brent Taylor Foundation. It's named in honor of her husband, who was killed in the line of duty in 2018. Brent, I had the privilege of working with Brent. I was a state auditor. He was a local government official, and we worked together on various issues. He was just an amazing individual, and we're lucky to welcome his widow, Jenny Taylor, on the show today. Jenny, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, what should Utahns know about Veterans Day? What does Veterans Day mean to you?
Well, I love what Holly just reminded us about the history, that it goes back to the ending of that World War I. They used to call World War I the Great War. Of course, they didn't yet know there would be World War II and things after. And the people at that time really had hoped it was the war to end all wars. And so for me, that armistice, that signing of that treaty that now has become the day we recognize as Veterans Day, it's almost as if it were a hopeful birthday. And that those who signed it and those who had fought in that great war and every war ever since are hoping that Veterans Day can be the birthday of world peace, of freedom, of unity, of humanity. And unfortunately, we live on a planet that doesn't have all of those things in all of those places. But I think that's what our goal can be, to look to these brave men and women in uniform who put on their work outfit every day and silently say, I am willing to die for you. And fortunately, most men and women in uniform make it home, but all of them are willing to not come home. They're willing to leave home. They're willing to leave their own families at home so that you and I can be free, so that you and I can be safe, and so that you and I can hopefully someday have that beautiful offering of world peace. And in the meantime, they're willing to fight for it. I think that's what's important today and always. And I hope families will pause today and talk a little bit about the history of war, the history of America, the history of humanity, and what our role is in fighting for peace in our own way, whether or not we wear the uniform.
So, Jenny, what can Utahns do to support you and to support veterans?
The first thing is try to find out who in the world they are. There are military members and service members and veterans and their families all amongst us, and we often don't know who they are. And that's a little tricky because military members tend to be a little more quiet about their service. They're not boastful and bragging. They didn't sign up for the glory. But if there's a way we can find out who in our schools, who in our church congregations, who in our community associations have that military background, then ask them to tell us a little bit about their service. Why did you join? What was it like when you deployed or when your loved one was overseas, or what motivated you to put that uniform on? And I think it's really raising that awareness to the fact that the military do live among us and trying to find out who they are. I'm part of a great initiative here in the state of Utah, has legislative backing. The governor has backed it, part of a nationwide movement called Purple Star Schools, to try to help teachers and administrators know who the school children are that are connected to the military, so they can then support them during perhaps a time of a deployment, perhaps a time of a government shutdown when mom or dad's paycheck might be tied up in the bureaucracy back east. But if we don't know who our military and veteran families are, it's really hard to support them. We appreciate them on paper. The idea of them is glorious and honorable to us. But I think our first step and our biggest challenge as a people is to identify them, find out who they are, connect with them, and then as we get to know them, get to know their stories, that right there will change the culture of the military-civilian. What right now is a gap, it will help to bridge that divide.
Well, and this is one of those challenges, I think, for some. It's like we see movies and stuff, and we can envision some of the, if you will, hell that our veterans go through in war, and we don't quite know how to approach them when they're suffering or when they're struggling, and knowing how best to help, and afraid that we're going to offend them if we do that. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this past Sunday, we had a wonderful Veterans Day devotional up in North Ogden, and our guest speaker was retired General Walt Pyatt, who's the CEO of the Wounded Warrior Project. And he said something that really resonated with everyone in the audience. He said, we shouldn't make it harder for a soldier to come home than it was for them to go to war. And yet, in many instances, it is. So think about that, the difficulty of going into war, going into battle, leaving your home and your family and your dreams and your career and everything else to go into war. Is that easier than coming back, than truly being able to come home, than being able to handle not only what you might have faced or experienced, but the people you might have lost along the way? And so it is difficult. I wish I had a recipe to say, here's what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3, and everyone lives happily ever after. It's not that simple, but I do think it's important for us to recognize that those who serve, they come home forever changed. And they are changed by the hell of war, because war is hell, and there's not a warrior on the planet that wants war. But they're willing to fight those wars. And so how do we help them remember the honor that drove them into those battles? How do we help them know that we respect and admire their courage in the face of fear, and that we have a true sense of honor in mind for what they did, a sense of horror in mind for what they've been asked to face, and a sense of duty in mind as American citizens to help bear those burdens and the burdens that their families carry. So how exactly to do that? It's going to be really nuanced and really personal and really one-to-one. And so I'll just go back to what I said about having conversations, finding who they are, getting to know them. And then one thing I will add, sometimes we'll say, I couldn't imagine X, Y, or Z. I couldn't imagine if my husband went to war. I couldn't imagine if my son were deployed. I couldn't imagine if the worst happened and someone were injured or died. But the truth is, you could imagine. You might not want to imagine because it's an uncomfortable thought, but maybe put yourself into that discomfort and imagine, what if I were the one in that war movie? What if that were my son or my daughter or my brother or my friend? Just imagining that and trying to picture that empathy will probably motivate you to do something. You'll probably have some idea, make a call, send a text, drop off a thank you note, bring over dinner one night, just hey, thank you for your service with sincerity. Every one of those steps is a step in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Jenny. We've been speaking with Jenny Taylor, the founder of the Major Brent Taylor Foundation and widow of Major Brent Taylor, who was killed in Afghanistan. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about some of the things that Utahns are doing to help struggling veterans in our state. Stay tuned.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details.
Honey, the credit card bill came, and we're maxed out.
Maxed out cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit?
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
The Utah Mammoth and Smiths.
are teaming up to get you to the game. With qualifying Smith's purchases, you can score single goal view tickets, hot dog and a bottle of water included, for just $15. The catch? These tickets go fast. Download the Utah Mammoth app, enable push notifications, and be the first to know when new tickets are released. Shop at Smith's and snag your seat for $15. Simple. Grab the Utah Mammoth app today and watch for the next release. Tusks up.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions and bring you a special Black Friday offer.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/radio. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection, plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
She was the most luxurious ship of her time, a grand symbol of hope and elegance. No other story has captured our hearts quite like hers. Book your passage now for Titanic, the exhibition, at the Shops at Southtown in Sandy. Walk through stunning recreations of Titanic staterooms, stand at the steps of the iconic Grand Staircase, and connect with unforgettable stories of passengers and crew. For a limited time in Sandy, secure passage at titanicexhibition.com. titanicexhibition.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Inside Sources.
So one of our regular texters, John, told us that he served in the Air Force for 20 years, active duty, 20 years civil service, and his birthday is November 11th. So he's had his birthday off for 40 years. Happy birthday, Bob. That's awesome.
That's incredible.
So
thank you for your service, Bob.
Yeah, I wanted to,
and to all the other veterans that are out there.
Yeah, because it is service, right? I mentioned to you my dad and my brothers. I also have a son-in-law who served in the Air Force Reserve. He was deployed twice, right? It felt like he wasn't in that long, but he was deployed twice during that time. And now that he's married and they have a little baby, he decided it was time for him. He had fulfilled his commitment and he didn't re-up. But he served for a number of years.
I've got a nephew that's currently serving.
Yeah.
My father did not serve. He was of that age of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And got diagnosed or misdiagnosed that he had a heart issue.
Yeah.
He was going to die
Yeah.
in 6 months. And it turns out years later, they've pointed out that, that was a misdiagnosis.
So my dad's story is that he was going to be drafted, again, Vietnam era, you're right, drafted into the Army, and he decided he would rather enlist in the Air Force. And so he did that, but then he finished a college degree and became an Air Force officer, and then he became an Air Force pilot, and spent his career in the Air Force. But he was on the verge of being drafted for Vietnam. He did serve in Vietnam, and he was there for a year. My mom had her third child, which was my second brother, 2 months after he deployed, and so the baby was 10 months old before my dad got to meet him. But those types of stories, right? And then, it was interesting when Jenny was telling us that it's important to not make it harder for people to return than it is to deploy. When my dad came back from serving in Vietnam, it was a terrible time. People were not supportive of the war, and nor
of the veterans
or of the people who had served, right? So he was like, his government told him, go serve there, and so he did. When he was coming home, people were yelling at him. He was on an airplane, and that was back in the day where it was like serving food out of a communal bowl. They put him at the very back by the bathrooms, didn't feed him because they said, oh, sorry, we ran out of food, right? It was really a bad time. Some of his people who were deployed with him were spit on. It was just terrible.
Well, and that's, as Jenny was talking about that, I had flashbacks. I'm not quite old enough to remember Vietnam, but I can remember some of the stories about Vietnam and how the troops were not welcomed back. It was a very negative experience. And so that's, to me, when she was talking about that, that's what came to mind was it was harder for many of them to come back from the war just because of how they were treated. And they didn't choose to go. For a lot of them, they were compelled to go by their government.
Compelled.
And then they served with honor, and then they came back and were not treated honorably. And that's one of the things I appreciated with Reagan, trying to change the perception of the military and to restore, if you want to blame somebody, don't blame the servicemen and women. Blame your elected officials who made those decisions, who
but not
compelled
the
them
people
to serve.
who were sent. Yep, that's exactly right. So I did want to talk about a couple of stories that I saw this morning when I was putting together the Utah Policy newsletter. And one of them, this was from Cache Valley Daily, which is a newspaper up in Cache Valley, as it sounds like. So there's an organization in Logan. It's called USA Project Valor, and they are trying to they want some help to get 2 veterans who are currently experiencing homelessness into some tiny homes. And they're saying that the project, which normally receives government assistance, is not getting what they need because of the government shutdown. And so they're reaching out to the local community saying, hey, we need help getting a couple of veterans into these tiny homes.
And that's getting them into tiny homes instead of living in their cars.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think that's one thing that's important to know is that there's organizations, lots of organizations, and they can use help. There's another story that I saw, and this one comes from our friends over at Fox 13. And one of the things that they said is that especially veterans with disabilities, they're really impacted by this government shutdown. And so right now, there's some new outreach that's available to veterans at the Utah State Capitol for people to help navigate like the paperwork and stuff, the benefits, the letters, those types of things can be difficult. But now there are people who are stepping up and just saying, hey, you can come up here. It's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Utah State Capitol inside room 105, and veterans can go in and get some help.
And this is one of those things. When you're a veteran, many servicemen and women that are active duty that are young, you don't have much savings built up.
Right.
You're not getting paid much.
Yeah.
So you go without pay, and that's a real hardship. It's not like, somebody like me, it's like, okay, I can miss 2 or 3 paychecks. That's just fine. I got plenty of savings. No,
I'm not like that.
when you're that young, any little hiccup can just really cause turmoil. And then if you don't pay some of those bills, then there's lingering costs and effects as a result of that, missed payments.
Yeah, that's right. So those are just a couple of ways that Utahns are stepping up to help veterans. Of course, we'll talk. Well, we can talk right now. One of the things that always happens on Veterans Day is free food, right? So there are lots of restaurants that are national chains and locally that are saying, hey, come in for free food. In fact,
if you're a veteran.
Yep, if you're a veteran. And I got a text while we were sitting here that said, Pizza Factory would like to thank all veterans. Come on in for a one large one-topping pizza. Okay, for breadsticks and 4 drinks for $32.95, which I guess is got to be a discount.
Well, and this is one of those things. I mean, it's great to have, discounted food and honor like that. But going back to the question I asked Jenny, which is, okay, I see individuals come back.
Oh, yeah.
And the experiences that they've had, the stories they never want to share again in their life.
Yeah.
And how do you reach out and help them? Some come back and they're ghosts that they or demons that they deal with, and others it comes full force in their life. It's hard for them to hold a job.
That's
it
right.
results in mental illness. It can result in living on the streets,
addiction,
and so forth. Just trying to cope with what you've seen and what you've been through, and that's hard for lots of everyday Utahns to understand. How to help out and reach and help.
My dad's been diagnosed with PTSD, and it's related to his time in Vietnam. And we have asked him, and part of it might be generational. You just don't talk about a lot of things, especially negative things. But we've asked him about his wartime experiences, and he won't discuss it. In fact, he told the family, go watch Band of Brothers. That's about the most accurate I can tell you. Right? No, I'm sorry, Saving Private Ryan. And he said it was really bad, and I don't want to talk about it. So I do want to read you this poem. So on Veterans Day, a lot of times you'll see organizations, it might be Veterans of Foreign Wars or other organizations that hand out these little red poppies.
Yeah, what is it about the red poppies?
It's because of a poem that was written during World War I. And so the author of the poem was, his name was John McCrae. He was a Canadian physician in World War I. He wrote this poem right after, like literally the day after he presided at the funeral of his best friend. And he noticed that there were poppies growing, and they sprouted up really quickly. So this is what he wrote. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard among the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. So he wrote that, and it did get attention during World War I. He wasn't super happy with it, but somebody rescued it from the trash can where he threw it. It got published and gained in popularity, and that's how we get the red poppies. And Lieutenant Colonel McCrae actually died before the war was over, but he wrote this that is lasting in Flanders fields where poppies grow.
Well, one of the fears that I have is the modern generation is so distant from war, they don't know the suffering that it causes. And they're too interested in, well, fine, doesn't work out, let's have a civil war, no big deal. And they do not understand the hell that comes with war.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, when we come back after our break, we're going to revisit the redistricting discussion that we've had today. So stay with us.
Good morning. It is 11:29 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tammy Kikuchi, KSL's top local story this hour. We learned this morning a teenager died in Fruit Heights after falling about 60 feet from a power pole. This happened a little after 9 last night near 1800 East and 700 South. Deputies arrived and found the teen with severe burns, likely from electrocution. He was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. We are told the 16-year-old is from Davis County. The spending bill to end the government shutdown is on its way to the U.S. House for a final vote.
Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries says his members will fight the bill. But given that 8 Senate Democrats voted to pass it, at least some in the House are expected to cross the aisle to send it to the president's desk. The measure would fund agencies through the end of January and require any federal workers laid off during the shutdown to be reinstated. Drawing most Democrats' ire, the bill does not extend expiring COVID-era tax credits that have made health insurance exchange plans more affordable.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 500 points on hopes of an end to the government shutdown. The NASDAQ is lower. Coming up, we'll have a look at the beautiful weather, at least for a couple of days. And traffic. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
The holidays are all about opening your home and your heart. And Zero Res is here to help you do both. Whether you're hosting family or coming home after traveling, there's nothing like walking into a house that feels fresh and clean. But did you know your carpets can hold up to 40 pounds of dust, dirt, even pet dander and bacteria? Zero Res cleans it all the right way, using patented chemical-free technology that leaves no residue. It's safe for kids, pets, and the people you love most. And this month, Zero Res is helping the whole community shine a little brighter. Donate canned food to the food bank through your Zero Res technician and get a 4th room free as a thank you. That's on top of getting 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for just $139. So get your home holiday ready while giving back to those in need. Visit ZeroRes.com today. Spelled the same forward or backward. Zero Res is the right way to clean.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Makita knows that pros never settle, and neither do we. With Makita, you get tools that perform at the highest level on every job without compromise. Makita is for the most detailed pros, expertly engineered to deliver precision, job after job. When your work calls for the best, call on Makita. Makita, built to be the best. Available at the Home Depot.
As the temperature sinks a little lower and the wind blows a little harder, next thing you know, the winter cold is going to be seeping in through your old drafty windows. So now's the time to call Advanced Window Products for custom-crafted, state-of-the-art windows that'll seal up your house and cut your heating bill. Get on their schedule before winter, and not only do you get factory direct pricing far below what the big-name companies charged, but Advanced will knock an extra $2,500 off your quote. They'll create beautiful double-pane windows with insulated frames, any style, any color, and the security features to keep your family safe. You'll get a lifetime warranty from a local company in business here for 39 years. Financing? 60 months, 0%. Or even buy now, pay later. So make the call. Seal up the house for winter with $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Call for a quote, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards.
For those who are making their way on I-215's East Belt, we have a crash at the 33rd South ramp to southbound I-215. It's in the final cleanup stages at the top of that ramp. It's only going to be there another 5 minutes, and then all lanes will be open. And then in the Ogden area, an accident northbound Washington Boulevard. This is as you're approaching the intersection of 20th Street. Crews also in the final clearing stages, but they are blocking the center lanes of travel. The Salt Lake Family Christmas Gift Show, November 13th through 15th at the Mountain America Expo Center. Shop more than 400 booths in apparel, jewelry, and more. Tickets online at FamilyChristmasGiftShow.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Beautiful through Thursday, then winds bring in valley rain and mountain snow chances starting Friday. Highs Thursday will be in the mid to upper 60s, dropping to the low 50s through next Monday. Lows will be mostly in the 40s. Right now, 54 degrees under fair skies. I'm Tammy Kikuchi from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studio. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So before we jump into just revisiting our discussion on redistricting, I wanted to read a few of the texts that we got from our listeners on the 50-year mortgages. So we did have somebody send us the image of Dave Ramsey in the ICU bed after learning about 50-year mortgages. Somebody else says this, and you knew something about this, being able to transfer your mortgage to another home like they do in the UK. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I'd heard, I couldn't have told you what country, but I'd heard of the concept, which is, okay, it's not tied to that physical house. You could buy a new house and roll that mortgage over to that new house, and I'd heard of that.
Yeah.
Providing some flexibility of being able to move, but still being locked in with that mortgage.
That's interesting to me. Another texter said the 50-year mortgage is generational debt, and I can see the kids jumping for joy when they read your will, they say. Another texter says if it's too expensive now to enough people, the demand will drop and allow for an adjustment or correction. Our market won't collapse, but it could handle some correction. I'm going
to push back on that just a little bit.
Yeah, no, do it.
What ends up happening is the government starts subsidizing these activities, and then it gets locked in. The market would push it out, but for the government subsidy, it gets locked in.
Interesting. Another one reminded me that when kids get married and have kids, that the house actually gets smaller because they come back, right? So at least I've had multiple come back and live with me, and for
my wife would say
they holidays.
My wife would say they don't come back enough.
I know. And then there's one who said 50-year mortgages might be a good option. Please talk to a real estate professional. I don't think it's available as an option right now, but then we have another texter who said, if you had a 50-year mortgage, it's not something they agree with, but maybe you could do double principal payments so that you cut it down to just 25 years, right?
Well, this is one of those, some are going to say, but this is a foot in the door. You can afford something.
Right.
My concern is what it does is it causes you to afford something that's more than you really could afford.
That's right.
And you don't understand the long-term ramifications you're locking yourself into.
Yeah, that's right. And then we have a texter who said grandparents and great-grandparents are concerned that the benefits of being in a home when little children are young are disappearing because everything's based on the financial aspects, but maybe having a 50-year mortgage is what we do to help provide our children a home environment that has so many emotional and social family advantages. So it just differences of opinion. But right now, as far as I know, there are actually no 50-year mortgages available.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to just remind our listeners that last night, late last night, like 11:40 p.m., Judge Diana Gibson told legislators, well, she just released her ruling that she did not accept the map that was submitted by the Utah legislature. She said it did not meet the guidelines under Proposition 4, so she did rule in favor of a map drawn up by the League of Women Voters that includes a donut hole that unifies Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I've talked about redistricting. I served on some redistricting committee and went through the redistricting process the second time in the legislature. Donut hole, meaning we're going to carve out something. When we did it, it was Salt Lake City and Park City.
Yeah.
Pizza slices, meaning we're going to have a mix of urban and rural.
Right.
And historically, the legislature's opted for pizza slices. We want a mix of urban and rural in every single district. And hers was a donut hole.
Yeah, and I think the urban and rural, if I remember correctly, that was not a thing really until 2011 when we were both in the legislature. That before there had been some, right? If you remember when we had 3 districts and Rob Bishop was up in the 1st congressional district, it cut off before it got to Salt Lake City. So I would say I guess you could argue the Ogden area is kind of urban. Mm-hmm. It's not urban like Salt Lake County, but in any case, we spoke to GOP Party Chair Rob Axson, who had some pretty strong opinions on the matter.
you look at the situation, if we care about outcomes, if we care about things going our way, we need to believe in the process. We need to believe in the rules that are laid out on what allows us to move forward. And we have constitutional structure. We have separation of powers. We have a Utah Constitution and a U.S. Constitution. And when you have an unelected judge who decides to be the executive and the legislature all from the bench, that's blurring those lines in a way that is not beneficial to the state of Utah. So again, I wish her the best personally, but here she missed the mark.
So he's concerned about process. And part of this process is from his perspective, from a lot of the legislator's perspective, the Utah Constitution says the legislature will draw the congressional maps. And so here, I mean, the legislature didn't draw the map at all. The League of Women Voters drew the map, which meant the judge adopted the map.
It actually was a specialist, but yes, I understand what you're saying, a data guy.
But in essence, the judge drew the map from their perspective. That's why they're concerned with that process.
Sure. He also said that even though his opinions are firm, it doesn't mean that people need to be angry.
Here's what I want to make abundantly clear, though. Strong opinions and strong opposition does not mean that we have to be angry at one another. We can be adamantly frustrated and angry at the situation, but this is one that I won't shy away from. And it's no personal condemnation of Judge Gibson. She just is an epic failure as a jurist right now.
Which seems to be a personal attack. But but look, he also released a public statement as the chairman of the Utah Republican Party and says, we invite Judge Gibson to leave the bench and run for the legislature to pursue her policy preferences.
Well, this is one of the things we too often forget: how to debate, how to disagree, how to attack policy. And he wasn't attacking her personally, but he was attacking her jurist capabilities. It's kind of like attacking a legislature for you're not listening to us.
Yeah. So we also spoke to the executive director of Better Boundaries, Elizabeth Rasmussen. She supports, of course, the choice of the new map and says it does meet Prop 4 standards.
Well, we've been, at least from when I have been in this position, I've been in this position from the beginning of this year, have been focused primarily on the standards written in Proposition 4. We got to make sure cities are kept together, counties kept together, that we respect communities of interest. And that's really important that we do that. And so overall, we're about the process. And the judge in her decision, it's a beautiful decision if you read it, it's very thorough, shows that this map complies best with Prop 4, which is the law. And so if you go back to the standards, compare the map to the standards, it follows it to the T.
And there's appeals going on, and there's going to be another appeal on this one. And Rasmussen says they're ready to contest it.
That's right.
The courts have been very clear on this issue that if the legislature fails to follow the law, the court has an obligation and a duty to step in to make sure they comply. And this has happened across the United States. The Utah Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court has been very clear on this issue. And so we are prepared, and I know the legal team is prepared to defend this decision in court. And overall, the legislature had 7 years to follow the law. And at every turn that they had the opportunity presented to them, they chose not to. And so this is a court doing their constitutional duty and ensuring that we have a map that complies with the law.
So I think it's interesting that both of those people mentioned process. One didn't like the process and one did.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to say, here's the one thing from my perspective. When I read the judge's ruling, and it's almost 100 pages, so I didn't get through all of it. I got through large portions of it. I'm quoting from this. It was basically saying Map 1 has neither the purpose nor effect of unduly favoring or disfavoring a political party.
But the donut
And
hole.
I'm going to say bunk right there. Because as I look at the maps, I don't have to look at any partisan data.
Yeah.
Knowing the partisan layout of our state, looking at that map, I see 3 districts that are heavily Republican.
Yeah.
There's not a chance a Democrat's going to win them. And one that's, some would say gerrymandered, but drawn such that it heavily favors the Democrats.
Interesting.
With no way around it. And you just look at it, and how do you say that doesn't favor or disfavor a political party? Because it favors the Republican in 3 of the districts and the Democrats in 1 of the districts. And 30 parties would say, we're disenfranchised. We don't even have a chance because there's not a swing district here.
Well, we'll, I'm sure, be able to keep talking about this issue because it is not going to go away. We only have one more segment, and we'll talk about some fun facts. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Hey, it's SLC Fat Loss with huge news. We're having our biggest deal of the year. Over $400 off, now through December 31st. We know how hard it is to stay on track during the holidays. Most people without a plan gain 5 to 10 holiday pounds. But this year, you could do the opposite and lose 10 to 20% in just 60 days and still enjoy those special holiday meals. This plan works because it helps reset your metabolism and hunger hormones. Claim your free consultation at slcfatloss.com.
I'm Jeff Kaplan. Do I sound skinnier? I dropped 30 pounds with SLC Fat Loss. It came off quickly. My blood pressure's down. I feel great. And I'm keeping the weight off. The SLC Fat Loss counselors were a huge help. They're awesome.
Do it before, during, or after the holidays, in person or virtually from anywhere you live. Free consultation at slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com. But hurry, limited spots available. Trust us. You'll thank yourself come the new year. Results may vary.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions and bring you a special Black Friday offer.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/radio. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection, plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Kiwanis Club of Salt Lake is a volunteer-led organization that has been serving Salt Lake City for over a century. Focused on changing children's lives through service projects and community engagement, they are making a real difference. President Terry Ritz joins us with more.
The Salt Lake Kiwanis Club was founded on October 18th, 1918, and it's been a force for our kids and the community, supporting schools, families, and neighborhood projects. Our signature event is Terrific Kids. For 38 plus years, we've partnered with middle schools across Salt Lake City to recognize students who show growth in character, attendance, and effort. Terrific Kids celebrates progress, not perfection, and it motivates young people to set goals, support classmates, and believe in themselves. Teachers tell us this program boosts morale, and it reinforces positive behavior, and students beam when their hard work is acknowledged. Our mission is simple: to build a better community by helping kids thrive and create opportunities for them to reach their full potential. If you'd like to learn more about the Salt Lake Kiwanis Club, log on to our website, slckiwanis.org, or you can find the Kiwanis Club of Salt Lake on Facebook. And we welcome anyone who shares our vision to join us and make a lasting difference.
The Kiwanis Club of Salt Lake continues to uplift Utah communities through service, leadership, and compassion. Their ongoing efforts create brighter futures for children, strengthen neighborhood connections, and inspire others to give back and build a stronger, more caring Utah. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Mr. Max, suiting for every important chapter of your life. Weddings, proms, new job, any celebration, mission callings, and more. Mr. Max there to suit your needs with 9 locations or MrMac.com.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So as we come to the end of the show, I wanted to let some of our listeners know some of the deals that are available in restaurants for veterans. But I have to read this text from a veteran. He says the food establishments have good intent, but I will never stand in a very long line for a free donut or a free coffee. And the line at Golden Corral is crazy long. So with that in mind, there are a number of restaurants. So California Pizza Kitchen, Chili's, Costa Vida, Cracker Barrel, Cubby's, Denny's, Golden Corral, from 4 p.m. until closing, is providing active U.S. service members, retired military, and veterans with a free buffet and beverage. IHOP has free red, white, and blue pancake. Oh my goodness!
Pancakes.
Red, white, and blueberry pancake combo.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's the blue. Right, so Little Caesars and Outback Steakhouse, P.F. Chang's, Red Lobster, Red Robin, Starbucks, Tucanos. Have you ever been to Tucanos?
Yes.
Brazilian grill.
Not on Veterans Day.
That
but yes,
might
I've
be
been
wise, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I think the key thing is going to the intent. We
Yeah,
want to thank our
that's
veterans
right.
for their service.
That's right.
This is something many of us can't imagine what they've done in their service, and we're very appreciative of it.
So lots of places our veterans can go and get either free or reduced costs food. So that's great. So I want to tell you some of my fun historical facts. So on this day, which is November 11th, long before Armistice Day.
11/11. And we're in the 11th hour.
I know. Gosh, that's convenient. On this day in 1620, Mayflower pilgrims made their first landing in America and signed the Mayflower Compact. So they landed in November. And
Man, the compact, they signed the compact. This makes it sound like, boom, you showed up and there were a bunch of attorneys right there ready to sign this legal agreement.
Well, they did it themselves, right? I think before they ever stepped foot on land. So that was I look to them for Thanksgiving time, and so we're getting close. What are we, 2 weeks away now, which is crazy. 2 weeks and 2 days.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they landed on this day in 1620. So we also have, do you remember Abigail Adams?
Yes.
So she was born on this day in
I think
1744.
she might have been the brighter of the two Adams.
So
John and her were an incredible couple.
One of the things I remember for her is her statement, right, of remember the ladies, because she was like, no, look, we should be part of this. So she was politically influential as a first lady, and she was an early advocate for women's rights. So that was great. And we've talked about Armistice Day. So in 1921, U.S. President Warren G. Harding dedicated the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington Cemetery. We heard earlier that President Trump was there at the tomb to lay a wreath, but you had a comment to me that I thought was kind of funny.
Well, I mean, we know about, well, first of all, I'm just going to say we probably wouldn't have an unknown soldier given our technology today with DNA.
Yeah.
And DNA identifying the remains of soldiers. But Warren G. Harding fathered an illegitimate child, and DNA came back decades later
and said, yes,
yes, he was the father.
So also, do you know the story of Typhoid Mary?
I've heard that. I don't recall the story right now off the top of my head, but I've heard that.
So she died on this day in 1938, but she was a real person. She worked in food services, basically. She was the first person in the United States known to be immune to typhoid, which is a foodborne illness that can be deadly. And she just spread it
to everyone.
Yeah, because she never got sick. And so
carrier.
she was a carrier. She was a vector. Right. And so she died not of typhoid on this day in 1938.
Know your fun facts.
Know your fun facts. We have a few
more. By the way, there will be a test on this at the end of the show.
I know. In 1939, Kate Smith first sang Irving Berlin's God Bless America. So you asked me, who's Kate Smith? Well, I had to go look it up. So she was referred to as the First Lady of Radio and the Songbird of the South. And this song was written, so God Bless America, that I think are very familiar with, it was written for her to sing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Custom song,
just for her. Okay, so in 1942, so what were we heading into in 1942? World War II. Yeah.
World War II.
The draft age was lowered to age 18.
Yeah. And years later, as a result of lowering that age for our fighting men and women, mostly men at the time, we dropped the voting age.
Yeah, to
we
18.
If they can go to war,
if you're going to die for the country, you should be able to vote in the country. Yeah. Okay, we have another war, a couple of war-related, but the Vietnam Women's Memorial was dedicated in Washington, D.C. on this day in 1993. So we know there's a Vietnam Veterans Memorial. This one is specifically for women. It was conceived by former Army combat nurse Diane Carlson Evans. It was sculpted by another woman to honor the 265,000 women who voluntarily served during the Vietnam era. So lots of female veterans as well, right, who have been in war. In fact, yesterday on the show, we acknowledged the 250th birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps, and there was a statement in 1943 that I read that was basically saying there's no special name for women in the Marines because they train the same, they serve the same, they are just Marines, right? So women.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
That's right. So women have been a part of this conversation for a long time. All right. What's a fun fact that you have?
Fun fact for November 11th?
It doesn't have to be related to the day.
Yeah.
What's a news story that was interesting to you that we haven't talked about? I'll tell you
Well,
one
of the ones that's interesting is the whole debate about SNAP or food stamp. And whether a judge can say that they can be turned on when supposedly the president says they can't and Congress says it's not funded.
Yeah. So that one's interesting because there's been so much back and forth, and we ran out of time to talk with Kelsey Dallas about this, but an appeals court said you can't stop the payments. There was another appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. They sent it back down to an appeals court that said, no, I mean it, you can't stop the payments. And so the Trump administration is now appealing again to the U.S. Supreme Court to say, but I want to stop the payments, but I think it's going to end up being moot.
Well, that's one of the questions is, will it be moot because, the
shutdown ends.
The shutdown ends, and therefore, there's nothing before the court anymore, at least before the Supreme Court. But this is one of the things we talked earlier about process.
Yeah.
When we talked with the redistricting folks, both sides were talking about process.
Yeah.
One liked the process, one didn't like the process, but it was all about process.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those interesting things when, from my perspective, studying the law, it's what is the process? Attorneys care a lot about the process, and they try and steer the process to their advantage and the disadvantage of their opponent as the case might be, depending what the situation is. But this is where sometimes as the public, we don't necessarily want to think about what the rules and statutes say. We just want the outcome that we want, whatever that outcome happens to be.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? So one of the things, again, on this discussion with the U.S. Supreme Court, so not only is the Trump administration asking the Supreme Court to look at SNAP, but President Trump himself is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to throw out a judgment against him in the case that involved Ms. Carroll, right? So he was found liable, and he wants the Supreme Court to just throw that out. That doesn't seem to follow process to me. Again, not an attorney, but it doesn't seem to follow the normal process of how do things get appealed and how do they make it to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Has President Trump ever struck you as a process guy?
Maybe not. Maybe not. There was another one too that I thought was interesting. Speaking about the Supreme Court, and that was, does religious liberty does it look the same for people who are incarcerated? So the question for me is I don't know, right? But there was a Rastafarian who was a practicing Rastafarian who had dreadlocks, and he said that was part of his religious practice, but he was forced to shave his head by prison guards. And so the only thing I'm reading is that it seems to be that the Supreme Court is not leaning on his side. But that's an interesting conversation, too, about do you have religious freedom, and is this somehow a safety issue, right, with these long locks?
Well, it gets into the scrutiny, how the government, how the judges, how the court system looks at it, and what is the interest of the government, and how narrowly tailored is the approach to fix that problem from the government, to see whether this could be a safety issue, this could be a religious issue, this could be lots of different factors. It all depends.
Yeah. It sounds like to me that they focused on the legal technicalities rather than the religious freedom claims. So lots of interesting stuff out there. But we are done. Thanks for joining me, John Dougal.
It's great
John
to be with
Frugal
you.
Dougal.
We'll have to do another minor holiday again sometime.
I know.
I offered to come in on Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I think you said you wouldn't be here.
I will be working, but it will not be at the studio. So that's it for Inside Sources today. We're coming up on midday with Maria